Hello, everyone.
Woo!
Woo! And welcome to our final installment of Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah.
Music commentary, music and sound. We are the
Woo!
Band Batch. I'm Xanthe. This is Justin and James.
Hi.
And today we're going to be talking about the music and sound and everything in Chapter 7, the season finale of the Book of Boba Fett. So we're going to do that. I'm just going to, right off the bat, I'm just going to say this might be full of mildly spicy takes.
Spicy takes for
Might-
sure.
that's a
Possibly.
fantastic way to put it. Yes, spicy
But
takes.
I don't think we're going to try. We're not going to be like needlessly mean. I mean,
No.
No,
I should only speak for myself. I personally, I'm not going to pretend like I didn't love this episode. I didn't like it even. So,
Yeah.
but we're still going to talk about what is happening in it, especially like music and sound wise. So,
I don't like my lighting. I'm gonna change it real quick.
okay. How is everyone? I'm pulling up chat. I know this is a different time than usual. Jonah's here. We missed you last week, Jonah.
Jonah.
There we go. I'm good.
Yeah,
How are you,
doing
Justin?
good. I'm doing good. I'm good. I'm great.
We're fine. We're all
We're
totally
fine.
fine.
I'm fine.
We're all fine.
We're all
I'm
fine
great.
here. How are you?
All fine.
I'm excited to talk about it. Okay, as we were about to go live, James kind of left us on a cliffhanger and then said, "I'm not going to tell you now. Let's just go on stream." So what were you going to say?
I was just gonna say that I feel like I got a lot of my frustrations and super negative feelings out over the last 24 hours, just through conversation and thinking about it. And now I'm a little bit more what's the word? Carefree than I was about 24 hours ago. I was definitely harsher 24 hours ago, and now I feel like I shook that all out. And now I'm feel I it's not that I feel, but I have a necessarily I will say that I liked this episode. I did like part of this episode, but it's also difficult for me to say that I liked it holistically. Especially rewatching it, I was like, you know what? There's some really cool, fun little sequences and things that I'm seeing on screen that I'm really glad I'm seeing on screen, but it's hard for me to place it in context and holistically within the whole series or within the Star Wars universe or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, I would agree with that. First watching was, we all watched it at premiere time.
Yeah, that was
all
fun.
Tired and giddy, and that was just a lot of fun.
Leave a comment in the chat or in the comments later if you think we should be able to convince Xanthe to let us do live stream reactions to
Yes.
shows.
Yes.
No.
Because
We tried.
Xanthe
I know they tried. I
won't
said
do
no.
it. Xanthe said no, but they can't argue with their audience. So let's put some pressure on Xanthe. Okay.
No.
Okay.
Trust me, you don't want that. Trust me. No one wants.
But yeah,
that. No.
but agreed. On a second rewatch, there were moments that I was like, yeah, I can dig this, and then was reminded. Yeah.
I'm
There were
happy
some
for you too.
fantastic moments that I loved,
for sure.
Well, good.
and I'm going to talk about some of those today.
Why don't we kick it off on a positive note, and one of you can share something that you liked.
Yeah, absolutely. Not in the sense of the order of the episode of, later on, this happens later on. But one thing I liked and was also incredibly confused by, and I had to think about it for 20 seconds or so, was the controversial, so to speak, Cad Bane death scene. I thought two things were interesting. One, during that scene, as Boba wields his Tuscan staff, we get the return of the 11-4 theme and rhythm, like all
Oh, yeah.
together, not so much, which has been mostly, I would argue, placed in these flashbacks from the first 3 episodes that seem so far away now.
Yeah, that seemed like a very different
Remember when
show,
that
right?
y'all remember the Tuscans in the show? You remember that whole part? Right.
Yeah,
So I
remember
thought that was kind of cool. It's like, aha, we get, it all musically comes full circle for a second here. And then I also really enjoyed, as Cad Bane was fading and breathing his last breath, we get a little auto tune. Did you all hear that?
I did not
Like
hear
it
that.
sounded like that almost. As he gets stabbed, you hear his electronic voice do this like thing.
That's so funny. It's almost like his auto-tune reared its head for just a second before it went away.
That's where my confusion came in, because I was like, oh, so his voice was electronic. And then going back and listening, I was like, no, it wasn't.
No,
Or maybe it
wasn't.
was.
Hey y'all, I'm gonna hang
Slightly.
up and come back because I'm like a JPEG right now. Okay,
No
so
James
But I
is
did
a GIF.
Yeah, that's I liked that. I really liked that sound effect. I thought that was a cool touch. I think it would have like hit more if we had kind of emphasized the electronic nature of Cad Bane's voice from previous shows, kind of things. We mentioned last episode that it was a decision to not amplify the electronic nature of his voice as in previous shows. But so it was kind of cool to be like, oh, it was there. And then okay. I wish there was a little bit more to it, kind of a thing. But so despite my feelings of the character itself perhaps leaving so soon in the live action world, as a future character, perhaps I did like that part of the sound. I thought that was really cool.
His voice grew on me too.
Oh yeah,
same.
I like his voice better in this show than with the autotune.
I personally don't prefer either way.
Yeah.
I'm just confused.
I personally
on
like
decision.
I like the progression of his voice.
Yeah.
Since we talked about his voice a lot over the past weekend. It has a natural aging quality to it, and and each subsequent time we see him, it's transformed just a little bit more. So it goes in order.
So, question: do we have any other Duros characters that have spoken on screen in a Star Wars show or anything like that?
I don't remember any
I
others.
think so.
So I'm not sure if this is a Duros voice or is it part of his like apparatus that he's got? Like,
I always figured it was part of his apparatus, but that's
because it's like into his cheeks, right? Like,
yeah, but we've seen him without the apparatus a few times in Clone Wars, I believe.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
Yeah, there's a moment where he escapes under the guise of a clone trooper, kind of a thing. But we've seen him without it, but then he wears it all the time.
Okay.
Reasons.
Interesting. Well, yeah, I was able to connect with his like visceral, scary nature more without his voice this way, you know. And okay, so I had zero problem with him dying. I know that there's like lots of people on the internet and Clone Wars fans that were like, "What? They brought him back in live action just for them to kill him off, right?" And I feel like his death is warranted and serves Boba's story. You know what's funny about it though, and this is I guess is where I was like where I'm coming off with like this episode as I was rewatching it, like there are so many moments here that I feel like are great season finale moments, like that are like powerful, well, like
what?
like okay, and like well positioned moments. But the problem is that it's almost like they're a finale for a show that we didn't see. Like it's like the Cad Bane thing with Boba, where it's like they're hinting at like a past and like some type of
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
history they have, but we never see it in the show. Like I feel like that's a moment where it's just like if we had seen Cad Bane in the show earlier in the show, where we could connect him to Boba's journey and connect him like to his past, but they're like speaking about things that we don't see on screen, so it doesn't have that effect. But I'm like, you know, if we had seen that, I bet this would be like really awesome. You know, I bet this like redemption that Boba is having right now against like, and there's like all these little moments that they're talking about on screen that feel like I feel like this finale is a fantastic finale for a show that we didn't see. I think that's the best way I can describe it. They're like Spice is ruining our town and ruining the thing, and it's like that's awesome that they're talking about this in the finale. But we haven't seen any of that in the last 6 episodes of like
Yeah.
how these people are being affected by Spice or anything like that, you know? Like there's like
Yeah.
all these things that they're like giving us a payoff for that we didn't see the setup for.
So in
It's
other words,
really
it's not
weird.
a payoff. It's not a payoff if there's no setup. Like
Yeah,
we
but that's
can
what I'm
we can
saying. It's like
yeah.
but the thing is that they're alluding to it as if there was a payoff.
Yeah.
You know, it's almost like there was. It almost feels like, and I know this isn't the case. This is a James conspiracy theory, but it's like it almost feels like they did shoot all those scenes, but they like if they like took them out of the show, and
I
now
mean,
they're like, you know, they're like, and now this is the show that they had to offer us. You
I would
know,
think that if it weren't that like almost every episode kind of had a lot of those moments too.
right.
I think it was just the
Yeah.
nature of the whole thing. But I'm
Well, yeah.
I already
Anyway,
I
so that's what
prepped
I'm saying. It's
myself.
like,
Yeah.
yeah. So no, let me just tie a bow on that part, which is like the reason why I was rewatching it and finding that I had a better experience is because I was noticing things that if I imagine the history to them,
Yeah.
if I just imagine that I would have seen Boba and Cad Bane like have some stuff on screen, or if I imagined that there was all these things that Boba, you know what I want to assume? That those 2 episodes where Boba basically didn't appear in his own show, that's the scenes that we could have really used were in those episodes, but they were all happening off screen.
Yeah.
You know, like we're like we need to
Yeah.
protect the town from the thing. It's like maybe there were some moments that Boba was like dealing with Spice with the town or whatever, you know. Anyway, so
I mean, yeah, I feel that.
I
I
am
mean,
buggy as heck, by the way, and I think it's because we're doing this like in the middle of a work day, and then like the internet speed is like much buggier or whatever.
maybe.
So I'm like, why is my internet so bad? So anyway, sorry,
So-
y'all. I'll try to talk fast.
So I think this goes back to just what might happen when relying on packets of pre-developed
Mm.
information and tropes in general, whether it's like film tropes or just Star Wars tropes or not even tropes, but just packets of Star Wars information where we talked about last week how just seeing a character can signify so many things that they don't have to tell because we've already consumed other media. So it kind of allows for a little bit of narrative shortcutting, which happens it happens in all Star Wars, you know, like not everyone, you know, it's meaningful when we see certain things if we've already connected with them priorly. But this episode felt like relying on the fans too much, like so much to do exactly what James did, which was like come up with this whole other like backstory and like justify it and just like figure it out on his end and you know, self berate, like not that James was berating himself, but like I have seen a lot of people online being like, well, I guess it's my fault. Like it's my fault I didn't watch Clone Wars, or like, look, y'all, I didn't get it. It's because you didn't watch Clone Wars or something. Like I see a lot of like,
Yeah.
basically, well, you weren't in the know, so
Yeah, right. So don't you understand that this is the history that these characters have because you didn't see them on screen in the show that we're watching, right? It's kind of like what people that don't watch Boba Fett are going to be feeling when they go to see Mandalorian season 3 and
Yeah.
Grogu's just back,
It's
right?
just there, yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I promised I promised myself before we started talking that I was not going to just say that things were bad or not, because I don't actually think that's true, because I think there's no such I just don't think there's such thing as like bad. Um, it's more interesting for me to talk about how it's more realistic to talk about how things did or didn't affect certain fans, because a lot of people did love this finale.
Oh yeah, that's great. I'm so
Yeah.
psyched about that. I'm like, that's great. Like, if people really got what they wanted out of this finale, then awesome. Like, and that's the rule always. Here's a, I'll give credit where credit's due. One of actually, Xanthe, you know them too, as Steel Wars is another channel, and he's got this like great quote where he like says, "Love Star Wars like a child, but dislike it like an adult." Right? So like, if you love what you're seeing, just love it, and that's great. Like, you don't need to explain that and have other people that didn't resonate that way bring like yucky or yum, like
We
like
just
that's
chatted
awesome.
this morning.
Oh, you did,
We recorded an episode this morning, and then
oh, cool.
yeah.
What a coinky dink. So this is actually just unofficial promo for Xanthe's next episode. But yeah, I think that's a great quote. I remember hearing that, listening to his podcast a while ago, and I was just like, that's so true. Like, this is a fun property and fantasy property that's like geared towards a young audience and trying to inspire them to understand. Like, Lucas's whole thing was like, this is for kids, right? And it's also inspiring them to learn like mythology, but a new mythology for kids. So like, let's remember that if someone really likes this, like, that's awesome. That's great.
awesome.
And no amount of criticism should
Take
ever
that away.
usurp
Yeah.
that magic that someone feels from it.
I don't think
right?
one has to love it like a child if they don't want to, though. But it's good that
Sure.
some people
Okay.
can.
But it's a nice,
it's a nice personal mantra
whatever.
for some people.
Yeah. For
Yeah,
sure.
everyone has opinions. Everyone has things that they like, and aesthetics that they dislike. It's Star Wars. Everything goes all over the place. It's a space opera, Western samurai show in space,
For sure.
and I love every second of that. Doesn't mean I can't sit here and go, ha, 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 what? Every now and then, if not a lot during the season, the show. But I don't know. At least for me, everything comes from love. Everything comes from love. And as our experiences as creators.
Right, exactly. Hey, Xanthe, can you tell us your top 3 moments from this episode that you just loved?
I don't think there were any.
I know, that's why I proposed that.
That's why we said top 3. So no matter how low that bar is,
there were a few things that were
top 3 acceptable.
That were like acceptable.
Okay, what are your top 3 acceptable moments from this season finale of Book of Boba Fett?
One of them was what was the line?
Who said
I
it?
really felt I for a brief moment I liked the line, "Gunned him down in cold blood." Do you know what I'm talking about?
When did that happen?
Yeah.
James's look is like.
I'm just like,
Okay, another one is
was it no, hold on, let's stay on this for a second.
Just move past it.
No, let's stay on this for a second. Was it the delivery? Was it the fact that the one who was gunned down was it was the bartender. They said, you guys didn't have to come. I'm sorry about the marshal, and the bartender
said gunned him down in cold blood. I liked it because it was a moment. Because I wasn't expecting the line, because I thought he was gonna, he said sorry about the marshal, and he could have said yeah, me too, or something like that. But I like that he took the line, that the line went a step further and just kind of skipped the "yeah, me too, thanks" bit. So yay.
Okay, that's cool.
Okay, another one is okay. Let me look at my notes. Let's see. I thought Grogu was cute at the part where
At the part.
At the part where Grogu was in the X-Wing cockpit and Pelly was like, let me say hi to my friend. And then we see Grogu there. I thought that was cute. And one more. Let's see. That I watched it with you two.
Aw.
Aww.
Aw.
Aww. That's nice. Your third favorite thing about the Book of Boba Fett finale is the people you watched it, the friends you made along the way.
Exactly. Exactly. Which is like my favorite thing about this whole series is that it's been an opportunity to connect. And
Well,
yeah.
I think that's awesome. And I think that's I think that's awesome. What's awesome about Star Wars and other things like Star Wars, in some ways, like people's enjoyment for this type of thing is the fact that they get to enjoy it with other people that they care about and other people they connect with, you know? And I think that's so cool, you know, because it's about community as opposed to just like a medium that you're, you know, or a series. I mean, there's something nice about having something that's personal to you too. But it's definitely something really cool is to be able to connect with that.
I think that's the primary thing that I get out of Star Wars.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's hard to say that, but if I really think about it, like, it's nice to not experience it in a vacuum.
Totally.
Yeah. So, all right, now that that's out of the way, no, I'm just kidding. A couple things that if we go back to Cad Bane for a second. First of all, do you think Cad Bane is actually dead?
After this show, I have no clue. After it's like, has anyone ever watched it's like the show Gotham for me. If anyone's a Batman fan, Gotham was this very wacky version of Batman, which was fun along the way.
Right.
But spoiler alert, nobody dies in that show.
Right.
And like ever. Like you may think so, and you'd be surprised at the people that they just bring back out of willy-nilly. So
Totally.
This show felt a little Gotham-y to me. Like, I think, James, you described once of someone playing with Star Wars toys. Like that's what this show has been like, which is a little what with love again Gotham is like, and I love that show. So I want to say he's not dead.
Yeah. Well, I think
there's
the
that
point
ticking sound.
Yeah. The
There's
mysterious ticking sound.
Yeah, the ticking sound.
That felt so out of place.
Cad Bane.
Yeah.
What is that?
Severus Snape
sound.
Severus Snape.
It felt so out of place to just obviously include in the sound design for it to not mean something to me. You know?
It's something
it was the ticking of his heart last ticking.
Oh.
I don't know. Maybe he has a mechanical heart.
Cutting room will definitely.
We will. Cutting room floor.
Yeah, Justin, I think that like the point is that they left themselves an out.
Yeah.
And whether he's like dead or not, it's
Schrodinger's
Alec.
cat. Schrodinger's cad right now.
Yeah, Schrodinger's cat.
Yes.
So yeah, I think that's the point, is that they left themselves an out for sure. And I think we can probably expect that going forward. Unfortunately. In some ways. Like, I think that, you know, in some ways I really liked Snoke in Last Jedi, because like there was that shot that Rian Johnson left of like Snoke's like tongue like draping out of his mouth, as if to say to the viewer, he is dead, guys. Like, he is dead, and he is not coming back next movie. So but even that didn't stop everybody from speculating anyway. But this was the opposite of that, where they actually seemingly purposefully put something in there that was like, if we want to bring him back, we can make it. I will say that was a pretty brutal death for him to come back from. Like,
Yeah,
Like
stabbed in
I don't
the-
know if it was the frame rate that Robert Rodriguez shoots in. I feel like I don't know much about film. Is it a high frame rate or a low frame rate that causes that type of like sporty motion that he gets from this action? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
It looks like it's like I can't describe it, but you know how the motion looks like it's like, you know, some of the action sequence that's just the motion looks different than than some other directors.
Yeah,
I
it's
can't
usually a
describe it
lower.
because I don't know about film.
I
But
think it's a lower. I want to say
it's
it's
a
a bit of a
lower film
lower,
rate. There's like
lower
frames
frame rate.
missing,
You
right?
can actually kind of see trajectory versus like it's just so clear,
Right.
you know.
So so that moment was pretty brutal. Like when like Cad Bane is like having that thing and like plunged into his heart, and he's like, I don't know, something
Yeah.
about the way that was shot made it seem really
Well,
really
I mean, you know, Fennec came back from a gut wound, so
right,
maybe
exactly.
Thundercat's just in the
Yeah,
background picking up all these
Thundercat,
people.
anybody. I had that moment at the end of this episode where I was just like, what if we just get like Thundercat is just like, what if like Boba's new hustle is like, dude, did you get shot? Well, come to my palace.
I got a guy.
And I'll,
I
like,
owe
I don't
you a
think
soak in the back to tank.
yeah. I don't.
They said that twice in this episode.
Ugh.
Soak in a back to tank.
Good. I owe you a nice soap in the back of the tank.
I have to say something about
Um,
style. Oh, did I cut you off?
Anyway, the last thing I'll say is like with Cad Bane, it's like if he needs to be dead for future stories, right? If there's like some reason why that would really serve a story, he'll stay dead. But if they want to bring him back, they can. So that's it.
Yep.
So that's how it works.
Okay.
Let's go, Xanthe. Let's go.
The reason there are so many questions about this and everyone's going back and forth and there's so much Schrodinger is everyone in this
Yes.
is because the narration, the show in general,
Yes.
has been so unreliable that we don't know what's real when we see it.
Okay. Can you elaborate on that?
Yes. Think back to when Black Chrysanthemum was beating up Boba, and that looked and sounded fucking brutal.
Right.
Like, there's no way, like, first it sounded like there's no way he's living from, there's no way he's going to survive this. Like, that was, he was not, he was like naked. Like, how did he survive that? Let alone just like, just go about his day after that. And so that already kind of, moments like that raise the stakes of like, okay, these characters can take a really big beating. It's like in animation, you know, you get used to seeing a higher amount of violence for less consequences.
For sure.
So here, when I saw him like stab Cad Bane, I wasn't really immediately, I didn't know what to make of it because I was like, I don't know, we've seen a lot of like some things. We've seen a lot of like careless deaths that are just like, oh, you could just push someone over, knock someone over a thing and they die. And we've also seen lots of like brutal survival. So
right.
who's to say what is, it's been inconsistent in its telling and in the way people react to deaths and just everything that like, I just feel on shaky ground. And that's what unsettles me more than knowing whether someone is dead or not. Like I don't really care which characters are dead or not, but I would like to trust the storytelling enough that I know when to feel sad and when to not.
Yeah.
Like it's just that I don't know how to feel, and we can only take so many, like neurochemically or whatever. Like we can only take so many fake outs before we stop believing it. And so it's something that like yeah, it can work the first time to bring someone back, and then you're like super, super happy. And then the more it happens, it diminishes really impactful moments. And the same goes for even just like Grogu's separation and return. Like it's it kind of takes away the weight for future things. So like pulling that card of like, oh, we better pull this like emotion card. I just wish they would be more careful about when they were doing that, because fans go up and down with it. And yeah.
I hear you. So I've been holding my sorry, I want to actually seriously talk about what you're bringing up because I think it's super important. But I just wanted to bring up something I thought was hilarious on rewatch, and it links. And let me just make this joke. So I think the reason why
Get ready, James.
I
It's
think
doing a joke.
I like how I prepared for the joke this time because, all right. So it's because in Star Wars, you can never be sure if anyone's dead. That's why at 25 minutes, Boba and Mando shoot this pike that's on a rooftop.
Oh, yes. I know.
And then they just keep shooting him as he's falling in air. And they're just and they make a point to zoom in on Boba and Mando just going Boba, it's as this poor guy is falling off the rooftop. They must have shot him 30 times, unloading on this falling corpse off the thing. Maybe it's because in the start, you just don't know if anyone's dead or not. What kills anybody in this? There's no logic behind it.
Do you remember The Last Jedi when Hux is like, do you think we got him?
Yes,
exactly.
Yeah.
That's what that moment is like. It's them just unloading on this falling corpse. Everybody go watch it 25 minutes if you don't remember what I'm talking about. It's hilarious. And the thing is they zoom it. Sorry, Justin. I love it. When they zoom in into Mando and Boba's face. And they're boom, 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 boom. It's kind of a Tarantino scene. I mean, it's Robert Rodriguez, so it's not surprising. But
it's all
anyway,
killer.
Sorry.
Killer.
No,
that's what they meant.
It's exactly this. Going in not just which characters are dead, but Xanthe, what you're talking about, when to kind of take things emotionally or seriously, because we have these moments delivered to us that, in my opinion, we don't deserve because we have these serious moments, and then we have a scene where we're just two people are unloading upon a falling corpse. Or my favorite Western trope of this whole one was when she shoots the Aqualish. Fennec snipes the Aqualish from the window, and he falls into the water barrels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was such that's an overused Western film thing. Falling from the sky and into water barrels. It was you give us this, and then you give us that. And then you give us this.
It's all over the place.
Yeah,
right?
and then you get characters that survive really big beatings, which comes off as weird, or it comes off as diminishing the strength of this character who's already been built up. Other mediums have already done the work to build this character up as a super, super badass Wookiee. And to have Boba just survive that just easily, kind of, I don't know, you kind of have to just either pretend it didn't happen, or make it affect how you now consider Chrysanthemum, or make it affect how you consider just the rules of this land where no one dies, except sometimes they do die. At this point, I don't even.
Except for the pigs, those poor pigs. The only one they're literally the only protagonists that die are these two poor pigs.
I didn't even notice.
They get shoved off of a cliff.
Off a cliff. Well, I have to say,
all this time with them, saying look, they're loyal, they're friends, they have turned, and then we
them off a cliff. Those poor Gamorreans. And I have to say that they didn't. I think they were at the. There was a language barrier for sure, because I noticed this moment where one of the Gamorreans has a comm link, okay, and he's trying to call for backup. Well, and he goes, he speaks in Gamorrean into the comic.
Oh.
And I just imagine on the other end, they're dude, does anyone understand what he just said? He's
no, even funnier, James, if you watched it with subtitles, because I watch everything with subtitles these days, it says speaking Huttese. During that point, it actually says speaking Huttese as he's screaming in pig Gamorrean language. And I'm both times I was wait. They've been speaking Hutt all this time. They've been speaking a dialect of Hutt. What?
Interesting.
Which is funnier now that you're saying this, because
well, back to the deaths. I don't know. I don't even know what to make of Garsa Fwip's situation, because
we didn't see her die specifically, and we didn't see her dead body,
right?
So she can come back if she wanted to.
Yeah. So. I don't like. I just don't like I don't like this space where we don't know. if anyone has died or not. But I mean, I don't know.
I think we kind of got to get used to it to a certain extent, unfortunately. And I'm not saying
Don't
I
tell me
don't.
that. I don't have to get used to it. I can be upset about. I can be because I
Okay.
will be.
Well, yeah,
It's a
you're
human.
right. No, well, okay.
No,
Well,
no,
you can
but
get
James, my
used to it,
brain
but you
can
can
get on
also.
board with it. I understand
Yeah.
logically that I have that if I just to preserve my own enjoyment of the series, like I know that it would be good if I can find a way to make peace with it. But on a chemical level, no, there is
Right.
no getting you. It just is
Uh,
going to affect. Even if I don't dislike it, it's just going to affect me differently. And the way that it affects me is that I just don't know what to take seriously. So it just makes
right.
me not be as sad when people die, and it makes me be not as happy when they turns out
Not
that
take
lives.
it seriously, right?
So
Not take the
Yeah.
art that you're watching seriously. I hear you
so that's
for
on the
sure.
film, like that's on the directors. Like if that, and I'm not the only one. I think everyone now is like that, where we're like, no, where a lot of people just everyone holds out hope. There's no like ever final deaths. There's not like real whatever.
Well,
And so it's their choice if they want to keep doing that and have us keep being like, okay, well we don't take that seriously, and that gives
right.
us a lot of agency as fans to make up our own stuff and whatever.
I hear you. I think it would be. I honestly, the more I think about the Cad Bane being a live thing, the more I think it undermines. Let me just be clear. Like I said, that moment seems like it was a very, very satisfying conclusion to a story arc that we didn't see this season. So, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
even though
Yeah.
I was about to say that Cad Bane living undermines that moment, but the moment itself has been undermined by its lack of preparation for it. But anyway, the point being is like, Boba obviously, I think, there's some symbolism of that moment where Boba is like putting away his old bounty hunter ways by killing Cad Bane, right? He's like, he's using the Tuscan, um, uh, he's using the Tuscan staff to kill the guy that trained him to be a bounty hunter, right? Isn't that the canon backstory between, or at least like
Yeah.
what they were gonna do in Clone
Mhm.
Wars? Is that Cad Bane is like the person that trained Boba really
Yeah.
ultimately to be like the badass bounty hunter that he is. And so by him killing his, I mean, that's the thing is there's like actively mentioning in this episode, like, you've grown a lot. And you're like, when did we see this in the show? I know that if I watch Clone Wars, I'd understand.
And remember all
this.
those childhood flashbacks that we got at the beginning of the
Mhm.
series? Why
What
not
were
give us
those
like this
about?
kind of flashback? You could
Why
have
didn't
given
we
us
get
a flash.
those?
Flashbacks about?
No, I mean the flashback to him saying goodbye to his dad on Camino, where they
Right.
could have
I
given
know.
us.
What were they even
We could
about?
have
Oh,
had
exactly.
a couple little other flashbacks of
No,
They had no relevance to anything else that came up.
I
But
love
anyway,
it. I love it. I kind of love how crazily stupid
I mean,
some of
yeah,
this stuff
no,
is.
yeah, no,
I kind of
yeah.
love it. It's kind of crazy that they made the show the way they did. It's kind of like it doesn't make a lot of sense how the show was made.
why
You know?
didn't Cad Bane talk to Fennec? like,
What do you mean talk to her?
Fennec was right there. They didn't acknowledge each other. He
Convert?
was like, "We have a
Oh,
history.
right, because they
Boba, you
had
and
the
I have a
thing in Bad
history."
Batch.
Whatever happened to that whole thing? Like, I was like, look, it's hard for
Yeah.
me to get on board with bounty hunters. I really tried with Bad Batch,
Yeah.
and I was like, okay, all right, okay.
Well,
There's a
the thing
Cad
is,
Bane Fennec thing. Okay, that's
yeah, but the thing is, Xanthe, they can't just add stuff from the Clone Wars that we haven't seen in the Book of Boba Fett, or from another show. They can't just add that history into this show.
No, you got to go see the other show.
unless it's with Boba Fett, because we can assume everyone has a history with Boba Fett.
Just kidding.
So what do
Anyway.
Is this a bot here?
No,
Did I-
I dig it.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
no. I feel like I've seen them elsewhere. I don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the music, that was also all over the place.
There's some cool stuff in there.
Like what? I mean, what did you find cool?
Like what?
Name one thing that was cool.
One thing. Okay, I will say that
And chat, you can let us know too.
Yeah, despite its cheesiness in its first emergence, which I will go by, hearing the suit up music from episode 1 or 2 when he's riding the Rancor satisfied me in a nice way. When it's there, he is riding that thing again, a moment I don't think we deserved, and we should have like led up to a little bit. But hey, just going off of face value here of what happened and what we were hearing and seeing.
I think Joseph surely watches our podcast. I think when we mentioned that. I think when we mentioned that we never heard the episode 1, like so much episode 1 material seemed like it like got abandoned or changed for the second episode. Joseph was like, I'll show them.
I'll show them.
I'll put that in. I'll throw it in the Rancor.
They'll have something to talk about. It's episode 7. Yeah, they will. Yeah, no, the Rancor with the bum 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 bum. That heightened that scene to a level of acceptable ridiculousness that I had me enjoy it.
Yeah, that kaiju stuff was fun. I
really liked the Rancor animation and just seeing it do its thing.
It looked amazing.
Situation we could talk about, but just seeing it, I thought was visually very nice.
Yeah, it was cool. Did y'all catch that like 7-8 groove going on during like most of the fight scenes in front of the sanctuary?
Mm-hmm.
And remind me. I got to be honest with you. I didn't feel like going back and watching our streams. But this is this like pitch set that we've been talking about a little bit, right? This like diminished scale, right? We've been talking about that pitch set. Where else has that pitch set happened in this season? That like it's like half step, full step, half step, full step.
Oh,
we talked about that before, and I didn't remember. Yeah, but I didn't remember like where else. I couldn't remember.
We were talking about it when I thought it was when they were doing the little Jabba Hutt's palace heist, getting the ship back.
Yeah, so that. So let me just. I'll just tell you what the notes are. So I'll tell you. So it's during like when like Mando and Boba are like fighting the Scorpion out in front of the sanctuary. It's this groove that's in 7/8, and it's basically like boom boom bo do de boom boom bo do de boom boom bo do de boom boom bo do A B flat C D flat E flat. Yeah, so I was like, oh, that's that. I feel like that's that little pitch set that we've been talking about quite a bit in this show. Showing up here. I like that little 7/8 groove. I'm always down for some odd meters going on in my fight scenes.
This is true.
So that was fun. I also enjoyed in that like lengthy exposition scene where Fennec is, like what's the word? Just like painstakingly, painting the picture for us. We're like, all right, this person is over here. Yeah, we're at war, and it was also like
inevitable.
It was also like, all right, all right, guys, let me explain to you our reinforcements. We have one hairy beast in this one, and we've stationed him conveniently in the section in the section of town that he has like basically a racist prejudice against everybody that even is from this species. Okay, all right, we put him there. Maybe just the sheer force of his hate will give him a fighting chance in this. Okay, we've
I found that extremely annoying because I found that extremely annoying, especially all the lengths that they go to make Boba be like, I'm respectful now and I'm on respect and blah, blah, blah. Oh, let's just offhandedly put the Wookiee in this like slaver area.
Yeah. It's like you use the power of your prejudice to gun down these Trandoshans.
It's the power of the Trandoshan's prejudice against him.
Too.
Well, But again, I mean, it's one thing if you've got a history of these particular species like doing that to Wookiees, but is it okay for that? It's kind of what I was going at that one Sanctuary episode. It's is it okay that he just assumes that all Trandoshans are like
it's like they put him in the KKK zone.
Is that true, or is it? I guess what I'm saying is
Trandoshans enslave Wookiees.
Yeah, but this is my point. Is like, do all Trandoshans enslave Wookiees? It's my point. That's my point. It's like I know that there's a significant sect of like Trandoshans that do this, but
either way, wouldn't it trigger him?
Okay, yeah, sure. I guess.
And to literally be in the Trandoshan district, are you hoping for 100%
which
of all the Trandoshans going to be cool?
I'm trying to say that no matter what history exists, like it's not okay to be like have these like species-wide prejudices against, Okay. Anyway, I don't even want to go.
We can all
Yeah, let's
we,
not go
we,
there.
we can all agree that
I think it's
that was a
fine
bad
that
place to
Chrysanth-
put
yeah.
him.
Okay.
It's a bad place to
Anyway.
put him. Yeah.
Anyway, so then we've got the teenagers hanging out, and
Sounds
we've
good,
got a
Jonah.
group of teenagers over there, and then we have 2 pigs hanging out in the other section. It's like this
In
is
the airport.
in the airport. This is what we've got to offer here, and it's
All
funny
of
that
our
they.
all of our
it's-
flanks are covered. Remember?
It's funny
All of
that
them.
yes, it's funny that she laid it out that because you're like, it's funny that she laid it out so explicitly because it's like, oh yeah, you guys really haven't been doing a good job at like building up your empire for the last 7 episodes, and you're like describing exactly how bad of a job you've been doing also, But anyway, during that whole section, it was like this fun groove. It's like dun 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 boom 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 dun 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 the whole time. Kind of alludes to the 7 or to the 11-4 thing, but it's actually just in an even 4-4, which is fun. Those are my groove moments.
Yay.
Moment.
So the other piece of music that popped up from a prior episode was the speeder chase music. Yay. So it was the
right, a little bit.
dee 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 dee, that
Yeah.
chromatically ascending cheesy thing. That happened. And
It
honestly, I think it's like they took my least favorite things from all the season, wrapped it into one episode.
Yep, this was the anti-Xanthe
This is very anti-Xanthe
episode.
I didn't mention the number one sound issue I had with this episode, and that was it was so loud. It was so incessantly loud and shooty. I couldn't listen to it for very long. I turned the volume really, really low. About 15 minutes in.
Yeah, I did the same thing, actually. It was hard to pay attention to really... But this whole episode was hard to pay attention to the music, period, because, one, lots of blaster fire, and then just...
like lots of blaster
so
fire.
much blaster fire, and then just, like, the sheer ridiculousness of how much happened in this episode. You're just like... It's still, like, going back through this episode in my head, even having just rewatched it, I'm like, oh, right, that also happened. It was so loud.
Right. It was like all killer, no filler in this episode.
Yeah,
I felt
all
like
killer.
even like the Rancor wasn't as loud as the blasters. Like I felt like that would have been something to like.
I lost my shit when the Rancor came out. I was like,
all
let me
right,
take a break.
What I thought was
in
hilarious,
a like overwhelmed way, or how can you?
In an extremely annoyed way.
Oh, annoyed way. Okay.
Yeah.
What can you? Yeah, elaborate on that for us.
Well, I had already gotten to the point where it felt like they were just pulling out things out of their bag of tricks to be like, let's do this, and now we're gonna put in this, and just like smattering of themes too. Even little things like smattering in the Marshall theme and whatever. Like it didn't carry weight because it was like all montagey, and also because the themes kind of all sound very similar. It wasn't like none of these things made a big mark because everything was kind of just like going at a mezzo forte or at a fortissimo the whole time, but everything was kind of just at a mezzo intrigue, just like everything was just low level but not low enough to be a break. Just like everything was just like medium level stuff happening with so many things happening. And then when the Rancor came out, which was something that I never liked to begin with, I didn't really like the Rancor's existence in this series because I don't think the Rancor was introduced. I don't know. I wasn't satisfied by the way that Rancor was introduced. Yeah, and it seemed so like that little brief introduction chat that they had several episodes ago before Boba went to dinner or whatever, to a meeting or whatever he went to.
He had to go walk. He had to go walk to see the mayor. Don't you remember?
Oh yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah.
There's no zooming or remote communication in this show. God forbid you have a
Yeah, you think Jabba had a no.
So he had to go do that, and that offhand, like, I want to ride it. Like, I never liked that, and I did kind of have a feeling then, like, I hope in the season finale he's not riding the Rancor.
Yeah.
And
That was
I
an
think the
we,
lack.
we,
unwise
we, we
feeling
knew
to have.
at
I
that
think
point. It was
but
like,
I
all
think
right,
the
we're gonna
fact that
see
we
him.
never once again saw an interaction with him and the Rancor, except for when they were having the family dinner and the Rancor was below and he fed the Rancor. Brief moment. We don't see anything of him being trained riding the Rancor, which again is fine, but like not even. It just didn't feel.
Earned.
It felt. Yeah. It felt just like we missed a
Missed some
lot.
stuff,
We
right?
Yeah,
missed
that's
a
what I'm
lot. Yeah.
And
Like
that's what I mean. Like none of these big moments were earned. That we didn't deserve any of this.
yeah. And so
You
it just
know.
felt
Well,
like,
let me
oh, well, we have to have our Rancor moment. Like basically
yeah.
everything in this
Let
episode
me
felt like
let
we
me
need to
make
have
a
our moment of this.
let me make a counterpoint, or not a
Okay.
counterpoint, but it's like I feel like the fact that it's the main like usually when these types of things that happen off screen and like the impact of these types of moments in these types of big block, like in these big like Marvel films or whatever, like big blockbuster films, like you get these moments that happen that are like it's like the person returns with the reinforcements and we haven't seen them for like the last like two like hour of the movie, right? But they made some comment an hour ago that they were going to go and try to find some people and come back with them, and you're like, oh, I hope that they make it. It's kind of like Lando in Rise of Skywalker, right? He's like, I'll go and I'll gather the rest of the galaxy, right? And you're like, oh, I hope he makes it. And then sure enough, he shows up with that giant fleet of people in the end fight,
Mhm.
right? Everyone knows what I'm talking about, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So it's kind of like that, but like he's not the main focus of the story. So your brain is a lot like doesn't think about Lando for the rest of the story because you're focused so much on Rey and so much on Kylo and everything like that. And so when Lando appears with all these people, you're like, oh, okay, like good, like this is so impactful. Oh yeah, that's right. Lando said he was going to go get all those people. Problem with this show is that it's Boba Fett, the main character of the show, that makes a mention to the getting the Rancor. So when he disappears off screen, just because of the sheer nature of the way the show, yeah. Or by the way, I try not to hate on the Rise of Skywalker too much. I could go there if I
You
wanted
can
to.
share your opinions.
Well, I have to
I'm
say
with-
that this. Let me just say, like this episode feels like the rise of Skywalker of this episode of this series. Like this everything about this show, this episode that I didn't work for me felt exactly the reason why Rise of Skywalker felt like it didn't work for me.
Minus a formidable villain. Minus a real antagonist. I mean, I don't know.
What do you mean real antagonist? You mean the one that they just introduced in the third movie of the series? Anyway, so anyway, again, I don't.
So
wanna
anyway,
go.
back to the rank.
Anyway, the point being is that like the reason why the Rancor feels weird is because and like what you're saying, you're like, we kind of needed to see him train that Rancor and stuff, and you know why you want to.
I don't know if that's the reason. That's just an hypothesis of something that may have helped. I don't know
But
the
it's
reason.
it's distracting because it's the main character, and that's what I'm saying. It's like our brain doesn't go like the minute that Boba disappeared off screen, like all of us were like, he's going to get the Rancor. Duh, like that's what he's
No,
going
we
to
weren't.
do.
Were we? Were you?
Yes.
I was.
See, I'm not like, yeah, I don't know.
For me,
I miss some obvious things sometimes when it's like a character's leaving. I don't really always understand like necessarily what they're going to
The
do.
minute they were like, we can't get to these Scorpion droids without our blasters, and we can't penetrate there, I was like, oh, I guess they're gonna go get their Rancor to hit to deal with those Scorpion droids.
But you knew that like on a meta level, like, oh, because they're gonna do that thing. You weren't like, oh my gosh, Boba is gonna. It wasn't like from a necessarily character perspective, like, oh, Boba's gonna want. You know what? You know how like when you know a character so well that you just even without seeing their actions play on screen, you can imagine them being in a certain situation and kind of guess what they would do. So in this case, emotionally, I wasn't like so connected to Boba that I was like, Boba is going to want to do this because like I totally understand Boba's motivations and what he's willing to do and not like because he could have just flown the slave one into them too. But it from a meta level, like, yeah, I mean, from the perspective of the Rancor having been introduced and being if I were to be pessimistic, then I would say like, oh, I guess they're going to get the Rancor.
Right.
So that would have come from a pessimistic place, which
Well, I think the fact that and I guess this is what I'm saying is like that because they set it up so clearly and the protagonist is the one that set it up.
if I set it
like,
up, it's just that one line saying, I would like to ride this.
but they don't just add this crap in like stuff like that into a series. Like that's the problem, I guess. Maybe
But they
with
do
being
in this series.
what didn't they follow through on? Do you
The
feel like?
Hutts.
Well, what did they set up with the Hutts that seemed like they were going to follow through with it?
Well, again, I don't
That's
know if
what
they
I'm
were
saying.
going to follow through. It's just,
But I'm
but
saying I
everything has
feel like
been,
the
but everything
riding
has
of the
been,
Rancor seems so direct. It's like I'm going to ride that Rancor. It's like
but in
that's
retrospect, if the Rancor had never come up again, I wouldn't have been like, oh my gosh, they left one string untied, because there are so many other big
yeah.
things that could have been things, including deaths and including the Hutts, which the Hutts said they were leaving, but there was also a lot of speculation. And I certainly thought like, this is certainly not the last we're going to see of the Hutts, especially since I was thrown off because they got music and like they had this whole
I agree.
fanfare. And so having
agree.
music introduced for characters like can really throw us off. And
I agree, but he was like, I would like to ride that Rancor one day.
And so what? They said so much shit in this series.
Anything like that though? Anything like I would like to ride that Rancor one day? Like did they
Could have
say
been in another series. Could have been season 2.
What do you think, Justin?
I've thrown me into the middle of this again.
You in there, buddy.
You all do. No, I was gonna say I can't do this to me. It can't do
There's
this
literally
to me.
no consequences.
I get that.
No
I'm on James's side in the sense of like the moment they mentioned that in the series, that's what, and I say a general we, not as in like everybody who was watching this show, but like we at that point as an audience would be expected to expect this scene to have happened. And the fact that we spent 2 episodes not with Boba Fett, which probably should have been spent with Boba Fett, giving us the reason for this scene. Yeah. Like when he said, when he flew off, for me, putting the what haven't we seen in this episode that we were probably going to get? It's the Rancor. Of course, we're going to get the Rancor to fight these 2 robots kind of a thing.
If I had to like put those against each other, the 2 things that we just talked about, which is like, if in terms of likelihood, like Rancor scene versus Hutts reappearing, I would definitely have said Rancor was more likely.
Me too, because easier.
Yeah, no, it was the easier one, and then at the same time with what Xanthe's saying, like emotionally, did I know he was going to do that? No. Did I think like, oh, this is what Boba would be doing at this point?
Right.
No,
right.
I just knew because this is the moment. This is the moment. This is it. With the one that did throw me off, though, speaking about characters flying off and disappearing into the sunset for a moment, was Fennec, who saves the modders real quick, does her little, you got manners, I like it, and then disappears the whole show. The whole thing, like there's this shootout happening. There's a Rancor, there's all these things. And I'm like, right at the moment that we were back with the Pike family group and the leaders and stuff like that, I was like, where's Fennec? Where was this? Where is this character kind of a thing? Then she hangs the mirror.
And that's what Boba sent her off to do, right? Like to go.
I had to, on the rewatch, I finally put that one together. I was like, oh, right, we did have this little
I don't know anything more about Fennec than I did before.
I don't know anything more about Fennec.
I know. They really,
it's so frustrating.
This is why I really want them to have a season 2, and I just want them to do it better. Like I want to be able to just look back at this season and be like, okay, there was like fun stuff, but like a lot of weird stuff. And season 2 is where it really heats up. Like I hope that in like 5 maybe years from now, like when Boba Fett is in its 4th season and like Boba Fett is like the most interesting character in Star Wars, it's not gonna happen. But I want them to I kind of want them to have another crack at it in some way. Like this feels like a lot of like weird setups for other stuff, this whole series, that I think in some way, like I would love to talk to myself in like 5 years once we see like where Mando season 3 goes and Ahsoka, and like see like maybe the series I still won't really care for this season, but I'll be like, oh, I'm glad that they did. Like I said this last
That's
week.
how
I'm
I feel
glad
about
that
all
they.
Star Wars. Like we'll pick and
Yeah.
choose things that we remember from it, and
Yeah.
in the grand scope, I'm glad.
Yeah.
You know, I'm glad that different people are making mistakes and trying
Yeah.
stuff and whatever. I don't expect everything to be perfect.
Definitely some experimental stuff in the show that I appreciate.
Yeah,
It's not
experimental
safe. It's not a safe
in a
show.
really generic way, but yeah. So I need to talk
Dig
about
it.
I need to talk about Grogu and the Rancor, two sides of the same coin for me, objects of storytelling for humans, complete objects. Grogu and the Rancor's treatment in the show has been some of the biggest bummers for me.
Yeah.
And that includes last episode, which I did not like either. I did not like Luke training Grogu. And here I don't like Grogu here either, because Grogu is another character who, like, clearly Grogu is there to be cute and to have people fawn over him, and he's there to be cute. And I love that he's cute. Remember, I said that was one of the 3 things that I liked about this episode, was that I thought Grogu was cute in that one shot. So I don't mind Grogu being cute, but I do mind Grogu being tossed around like, oh, he's Jedi training. Now he's doing this. Now he's choosing this. And now he's like, I do mind him being tossed around for the audience's pleasure, for the character's pleasure. And I think I don't want to put too much emphasis. I don't want to guess what the intention of the composers were or whatever. But, last episode, I was bothered that the music during Grogu's training was so, I don't know, corporate inspirational-y. And it was so centered around Grogu as the object of his training, not the subject, because it was not a Grogu training montage. It was a Luke is training Grogu and it's so cute montage. Mm-hmm. And here Grogu again was just there to do a thing
it was
that they needed, and that was also cute, and also ooh, wow, Grogu, I don't know, beast tamer. And I have to say that I am the Rancor, I get really emotional about the Rancor stuff. The Rancor is also just such an object in this story. First, they're riding the Rancor, and the Rancor is an emotionally complex creature, and the Rancor is they're playing this big talk, and it seems it's going to be different with this Rancor. Whatever. Even though I don't agree with subjugating the beast as a pet to ride either, okay, sure, I guess they're trying to go from that angle. And then right after that being oh, and now he's the threat and we need to neutralize the Rancor. How did it switch?
Yeah.
To that so quickly, where I'm okay, it's so the humanity in this episode was very apparent, and humans, we do that too. We do that too.
Well,
animals are cute until they start, until we think they're getting out of hand. And yet we try to play God with all these animals. And I really think I don't know, how many Rancor are there even left in the galaxy at this point? How many big beasts are they going to keep killing? I think it's a problem. I think it's a problem.
Yeah. They didn't kill the Rancor.
I know, but
no. So no. I would say okay, I agree with you. It was hurting my soul to watch them just shooting at the Rancor, right? But in some ways, I mean, they didn't do a great job of that. I think the point is that they were in the wrong to do so. And I think they were I think they were also trying to portray that the Rancor has what is it? I think
it was the red light. It was the flashing light that I knew would set the Rancor off.
Oh yeah, it was the red light.
Okay, for those who don't know, when the Rancor was first introduced, at the beginning of the season, and Danny Trejo's character was,
so
Rancor introducing Rancor to Boba's armor, because he has those flashing numbers on his chest plate. All I could see in that scene was just oh my gosh, Boba. I was so concerned because Boba was flashing this red. And I was how does the Rancor process that? Is the Rancor being distracted by the red light? Because I'm very distracted by this red light. The Rancor is going to freak out later when this red light is they're going to be training. The red light's going to happen. The Rancor is going to be set off, and they're not going to know why, and then they're going to try to neutralize it because they didn't cover the light. And so maybe that's what happened.
Maybe that's what happened. Well, okay. So they said Rancor are emotionally complex creatures. They never said that Rancor are like, and I think that shows a pretty decent amount of complexity where the Rancor will be your best friend for a half an hour while it wrecks all the robots you wanted to wreck, and then it's gonna try to kill you right afterwards. That's pretty emotionally complex, right? It's like, dude, like, it's a certain amount of trust that the Rancor doesn't have. The Rancor doesn't just trust you immediately, even if you're riding it around and killing Scorpion droids with
And
it.
here's where I think, like, then Boba wasn't clearly, like, I think Boba wasn't ready to ride the Rancor. Like, if you're actually going to be a Rancor rider and whatever, like, wouldn't you want to, like, have connected with your animal enough that you have command of, like, this would never happen to Aang and Appa.
Right.
Well, maybe that's go ahead, Justin.
Very different relationship.
Yeah, extremely different.
Very, very different relationship there. But you are right. It would not happen to Aang and Appa. I think no, he wasn't ready, and he knew that. But it was a last ditch effort, and I think that's why it ended.
And the animal always gets used in the end.
And it got used, and you threw him off, even though Boba didn't really do anything on top of the Rancor.
Boba was riding it very irresponsibly, not a chill ride at all. Riding to battle.
Had that there was some hold on there was some emotional connection between the two.
He had ride your beast into a massive battle.
He gave the permission to the Rancor to rip apart the robot with the classic "do it" moment.
Yeah, right.
And then the Rancor thanked him by returning the favor by holding up the pike so that he could shoot the pike and then he could throw him. Did we miss that one?
I don't.
That was
my
great.
goodness.
That was fantastic. Crazy. He just holds
like
it up for him.
The moments Boba selectively decides to be like, let's not be too intimidating versus total overkill are just.
Yeah, and then of course Cad Bane fires what scares the Rancor and not anything else. But it was and I love the fact that Boba says to Din, these two droids are going to destroy the city, but the Rancor is the thing that destroys most of the city in the end anyways. I don't know. After watching all these Marvel movies and things like that, I'm a little bit more sensitive to city destruction and how much is actually being destroyed by the enemy and the hero versus the hero.
Well,
oh my God, they're so true. That's so true, Orgfonts, which they made such a point to say. They made Okay, Orgfonts says, in another baffling narrative failure, the Rancor was not tamed by seeing Boba Fett's face, the human it bonded with.
Right.
Remember that whole thing?
Well, it said it imprinted on it, printed on him. Does that mean that it like tames him and calms him down?
I mean, if not that, what else? What was?
Well, I mean, it did recognize that Din was not Boba Fett and threw him off. I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, well, he was not ready to ride the Rancor. That's for sure.
You're not green,
guys. We didn't have time to cover all this. Okay, we only had 7 episodes, and we had to spend a significant amount of time
introducing 15 new things that we never follow up on.
Yeah, we had to make sure that Luke Skywalker got into the show. We gotta.
In my mind, this was a 5-episode show with 2 very weird episodes in the middle. It was
I can't make sense of it.
Well, I have to say, like, in some ways, like, it's so weird. I don't want to be, like I said in the beginning of the show, I wasn't I don't feel that badly about this app. I just feel kind of a little like about this, like, as opposed to like about this, And it's weird that it's made me less excited for the Mandalorian season 3. Is that weird?
No, because
I feel like the entire dramatic tension of like what I was like awaiting to see in Mandalorian season 3, which is like, hey Din, like, how are you going to cope without Grogu, and what's going on with Grogu, and like that has been completely resolved within 2 episodes, right? It's like, and it's like it feels like a weird character moment for like Luke Skywalker too. Like he's like basically, dude, Luke Skywalker sent Grogu like to Tatooine by himself in a X-wing with like only art. Like Luke Skywalker didn't even drop off Grogu himself, and
I mean,
we don't know what happened
maybe
behind
he
that.
guided him with the Force.
Yeah, maybe. We don't know what happened behind the scenes, but didn't like Luke come off as? That's I guess what I'm saying. Like I had the issue last week, and we went on that like just stream disruptive psychology debate. Like it was like I felt like Luke Skywalker's character wasn't served by these appearances. Like he seemed like only as a character, as a device. Like in some ways, like Luke, you talked about how Luke is like almost like the narrative of like Grogu's using, like if Grogu's an object in this show, Luke is just a narrative device. Like he's not getting any character development really about himself or anything. He's just like this thing that like he's an NPC. Like I said last week, he's like send Grogu back to the thing. But like, what about Luke? What about like what that means for his journey and what he's been going through? You know, that seems kind of a weird decision. So Luke, you got to imagine that moment. Grogu says, I choose the Mandalorian thing. So then Luke goes, okay, Grogu, looks like you're going, like, what about his I don't know. It's just,
See, here's the thing. Like, I love Star
like a weird
Wars
move.
because of like because of the questions it makes me ask of myself, and that
Yeah.
the questions that I think a lot of people struggle with internally, like things like last week we were talking about what it means to be attached, attachments, and choosing family, and things
Yes.
like that. And also, I love Star Wars because of how it makes us sort of question what our duties and responsibilities are, what we want out of life, what we're doing, like hard choices. And that's why the end of Mandalorian season 2 was so compelling, because it was like we couldn't even fathom what a Mandalorian show would be like without Grogu. We suddenly were like, we had no idea this was going to turn into a Grogu show at the very, very beginning. But now we don't even know how we're going to continue without Grogu in this show. And that uncertainty was a very compelling place to be. Like, I was almost like, how are the writers going to even write themselves? Like, how are they even like on a meta level? Just like, how are they going to do this? And on an emotion and a personal level, I'm like, how is Din going to do this? And when it came to Grogu being given a choice between the lightsaber and the Beskar, that was another one of those, like, that moment sparked so much dialogue amongst, like, first of all, that moment didn't give us like enough to know a clear direction of what that meant and what the inflection was. And we talked about the inflection in Luke's voice and whatever. It was hard to read, but that kind of gets to the heart of like the same thing that at the end of Mandalorian season 2, which is like these choices and these responsibilities and giving up what you think is what you selfishly want to do something that you think is for the better of like the child or the galaxy or whatever. And I would have, instead of like the showrunners of the show, instead of getting into the meat of these like really big questions that make Star Wars more than just sci-fi, or just more than that make Star Wars so larger than life, they just skipped right over those things to get to like the spice war, just to get to like a shootout. Like,
Yeah.
And I can't help but notice that the two really impactful episodes, in my opinion, which were 2 and 5, which were not directed by Robert Rodriguez, let's just say, those were like really kind of sealed, singular episodes directed by women that made progress in an emotional way in order for future episodes to just either quick reference them, like cheaply reference them, or like not do any more emotional work, but to do more bang bang. And that really bothers me. Like, even how the Tuskens were mentioned here, just as like a way to like poke Boba.
Yeah.
Like, I was, we said, the Tuskens happened so many episodes ago. Like, they were here so that we could have this like moment where we're trying to rile up Boba. And I don't like,
Yeah.
Cheap.
Cheap.
Yeah.
I love Star Wars for the other stuff.
Yeah.
Why did we skip
Well,
all of that?
Okay, you know what I love how there's a moment where Cad Bane says in the beginning of this episode, he's like, I think I have an idea on how to draw Boba Fett out. And then his idea is just to like go outside the place where he's hiding and be like, "Hey, Boba." Like it's not like some great. It seemed like he was setting it up for like some like plan, but he's just like his plan is like, what if I just go stand outside where he is and like see if he'll talk to me? Like I think I have some master plan how to get Boba Fett out of where he's hiding. And the plan is,
and that in his
I
master
will
plan
go call
was-
his name out from where he is hiding.
and well, no, wasn't his master plan basically to reveal what we all knew from episode 3, but for some reason Boba Fett has never known this entire season, which is that the Pikes destroyed the Tuskens and blamed it on the speeder bikers.
Which they revealed it twice, which feels cheap.
Yeah, I was like, that's a revelation. I think everyone was already like,
Well,
you
that's what
only
I'm
want to
saying.
reveal something like that once, you know? You like
what was
you
the
know
first time that they revealed that? They actually said on the show that they did this.
they just highly implied
in
it,
this
I think.
app. That's what I'm saying. In this episode, like the Pikes say it to Cad, and then Cad says it to Boba.
Yeah, so we're supposed to follow Cad in the Cad. Okay, so they're telling Cad so that we can so that now we don't need to know this. But, yeah.
What would have been more dramatic if they told him off screen, and then the first time the audience hears this is when Cap says it to Boba, so that we can actually experience that feeling with Boba himself. However, it doesn't matter because Boba then just sends Fennec to deal with the Pikes instead of having his own revenge. You know?
Yeah, I was surprised that Boba didn't get his, after learning that he didn't get to off the Pike leader.
Right? It's kind of funny. It's almost like he's been a bounty hunter too long, where he doesn't take anything personally at all. Where he's just like, okay, well, I spent months with that group of people and bonded with them closely, but let me just send my bounty hunter to go kill them, because that's like the way that I deal with things, you know.
And here's the thing: they were inputting that like even line of dialogue or even like moment, I don't know, twist, whatever in there. They're relying on the audience to already like have that emotion built up on behalf of Boba in order to make that believable, but I didn't. So like when Boba started like being like really vengeful and Fennec needed to calm him down, I was like, I mean, I don't really believe that Boba is like, I'm okay, yeah, logically, like I'm not like in it with him experiencing this like revelatory. I wasn't emotionally with Boba there. I'm just like, okay, everything felt performative to me, like he's performing. Oh right, yeah, okay. It's just it's been a long time since we have bonded with the Tuskens, and they almost never come up. So
yeah.
I mean, so here's some things that I think we could also, it's easy, I'd say, like to focus on like, how the storytelling wasn't great, how some of the directing choices, right? We can focus on.
We're as effective.
There are some really cool things that I feel like were really impressive, and I'm
like what?
That were like, for instance, I thought Cad Bane like looked incredible. Like I think that's the kind of thing that I want to see, and I feel like they've said, like I said last week, they made him look scary and menacing and not silly. In fact, in Bad Batch, he kind of comes off as silly in some ways. What he kind of sounds like I did my Adam Sandler thing last week. And the Rancor, that whole sequence. Just
I don't like the Rancor.
You don't like how it looked?
No.
But it looks like a Rancor. That's what a Rancor looks like.
I don't like how it moves.
How so? Like it's just like too much like CGI monster kind of thing?
Yeah.
Okay, it's just like looks marvelly, almost like, big budget marvelly kind of thing. I know. I understand what you're saying. I mean, there are some screenshots where like Boba Fett has got like a chain over the Rancor, and I'm just like, I cannot believe what I'm looking at. Like, I can't believe that this is a screen. That this is a frame from an actual Star Wars show.
Why? Because it's impressive.
No, it's just like it's like one of those things where you're just like, they actually did this, like
they put a chain around an animal and wrote it. See, I'm not impressed by like anything. Yes.
Okay, I guess what I'm saying is like, yeah, okay, we can be all cynical and stuff.
I'm not trying to be cynical. I'm just saying, like,
I know
genuinely,
you're not trying to be. I know you're not trying to be. But But no, I just mean like, there's a couple screenshots like throughout the show where you at least can sit back and be like, we're seeing this, and that's amazing, like, that we're seeing this on screen. I guess
Yeah.
it's not
I'm glad
amazing
you're
when
a
you think
voice.
that.
I'm glad you're someone who can share.
Yeah,
Glad you're here, James.
I just want to throw that out there for a little
Yeah.
bit.
No, I would agree. I would agree with that. No, the idea that at least me as a kid watching Return of the Jedi, not knowing that in 20 something or whatever years, two of these characters from this movie or things from this movie, Boba Fett and this Rancor, not that specific Rancor, but a Rancor, would one day join forces in such a way. No, yeah, that's an amazing, like, wow, that's a thing here. That is now part of Star Wars. That is a thing, and we get to actually not just imagine this in like Star Wars fan art or whatever you would want to consider just internet culture and fan culture. It is like now a thing. I thought that was pretty interesting, and I
So
liked how
wait,
the
just to be
Rancor
clear,
moved.
you
It
mean
made
like
sense.
it's exciting to see the Rancor like out and about, like jumping
I
and
thought it
stuff?
was cool seeing the
Okay.
Rancor out and about, moving around, doing things beyond just having a moment of thinking. Like the first time we saw a Rancor, it was a puppet, a really cool puppet, and it was menacing. It was a terrifying moment
Yeah.
in that movie. Luke versus this, the Rancor, and the technology. We could, I'm sure there's an argument, oh, the technology wasn't there yet for this. No, it was great for that scene. It was fantastic. And just to see something that we're so used to in this puppet form
And you
become
mean
this
that like slow, like
that slow
lumbering.
moving, lumbering Rancor thing now become this, that Rancor that we have in Boba Fett is youthful, at least, younger, I'm assuming, than than the first Rancor we ever met. And we saw how what Muchi Muchi moved
It's a
back
mooch.
in, Muchi moved back in Bad Batch. It was a lot more active and moving about. It was cool to
And small.
see another version of this menace, not menacing, but legendary, almost notorious creature, and see it in a
Yeah.
different light, moving out in the wild, not just in a cage. Yes,
Did it make you
being
like
ridden by.
Rancors better to see that? Like, does it help? Is it a good thing in your mind to see it do more and be more athletic?
I think so. Not just athletic, but just in a different situation, which is like, it was the same reaction I had with Muchi from Bad Batch. Was like, hey, we're seeing a Rancor outside of most people's experience with the Rancor, which is Return of the Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
It's most. I would just argue the average, not deep diving into all the shows and books and comics and stuff like that. That would have been your only interaction with the Rancor up until this point in a live action series. Um, so it was cool to see that. I liked that, seeing it in a different way. Just like I like seeing all these speeder bikes in different manners, and seeing um, these characters in different, very bizarre situations. Seeing twin huts, for a second there was kind of cool to see and be like,
Yeah.
whoa, that's a thing.
That's a
Not the
thing.
fact that they were twins, but
Just
like these characters
aesthetic.
existed,
Yeah.
you
Just
know.
visual aesthetic excitement,
Yeah.
Just like,
I'm the kind of person that can, for the most part, in my head and my enjoyment of things, separate the production value from what the story was for a second. And so
sure.
there was a lot of things about this episode that I liked because of the production, because
Yeah.
of what I was visually seeing, hearing, experiencing. And then at the same time, as I step out of that, I do believe that a lot of the story itself, for me personally, was, I think James put it wonderfully earlier, stupid. Just not what I personally wanted and what I thought was a good story. But production wise, the costumes and all sorts of other things, it's like, yeah, seeing this is really, really cool to me. It's like the Jurassic Park series for me. I'm a huge Jurassic Park fan and dinosaur fan. And it was every time I see these movies, as much as more and more just absurd that they get, if anyone actually follows the Jurassic Park narrative, absolutely absurd in the last two movies. But for me, seeing some dinosaurs on the screen is kind of cool. That gets me there. I will admit that it gets
There's
me
a little,
there.
yeah. It's kind of like the Fast and we talked about Fast and Furious movies. I think like last week. It's kind of like there's a couple movies in the continuum that aren't great, and some of the reasons why is because they're making the transition from like take these movies kind of seriously to don't take them at all seriously, because Vin Diesel is like, like hanging off of an Apache helicopter and like, whatever crazy things he does in those movies. But like there's a middle spot where the transition doesn't feel very good, because it's like they're still trying to take it serious, but then but once you embrace the ridiculousness of all of it, it's like becomes fun again almost. However, I think we can speak for all of us that none of us want Star Wars to just be sheer ridiculous stupidness,
Absolutely
So
not.
I think that's the issue. I think nowadays with where it is, and also the types of movies that a lot of audiences nowadays expect to be told. Like so much media that's like, especially media that's made based off of like long standing content like comic books or old movies, old franchises, etc. So much of it has this built in like, you're just going to be happy if you see your favorite characters on screen looking like a certain way, right? Or looking like this, right? So much of it, it's like corporately infused, where it's just like that sweet spot is where like it hits that for those types of fans and people that want to see that, but it also tells the story in a really meaningfully and powerful way. I think I could probably speak for Xanthe in saying that like I think you could literally just watch Star Wars content all day that never hit any of those. Some of those like little cameo thing. Like do you think that you could see like a whole like okay, say that they set. Let me just ask you this, and this I love an answer to this because I'm curious to how you feel about this. Like if you just saw maybe High Republic. I know that pretend that you've never read the books High Republic, okay? And and they just made a series that was just like seemingly like barely connected in terms of characters or references, like to Star Wars. Like you didn't see familiar characters. You maybe went to some planets, but like they didn't just do that because there wasn't any winking. There's a lot of winking in these Disney Plus shows, right? There's a lot of winking going on. You just gotta wonder if their left eye is like okay, right?
Yeah.
I guess my question is like, could you do it? Would you feel satisfied with a show like that if they removed all the winking? Because this show felt like a lot of winking and not a lot of
So yeah, yes and
content.
no. I think the winking serves sort of a purpose of hooking you, like,
World building, right?
well, not necessarily world building, but of hooking the
Can though.
viewer and sort of, and I feel this way
Oh, I
when I'm like maybe reading a Star Wars book or something where maybe I'm kind of spacing out, but then like at the mention of a character I know, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm grounded now back in. Okay,
right.
now I'm starting to make the connections. Now I'm a more active listener again, or like what viewer or reader or whatever. And so I wouldn't. It's not always a wink though. It's not always like, unless a wink is literally just anytime there is any mention of something that is remotely familiar. So, I
Yeah.
mean, I guess there's like a spectrum of what constitutes a wink, but like
Yeah,
I would
let's
say
not
that
get too
I would,
hung up on the wink
right.
analogy.
So like, yeah, I mean, yeah, I would need some sort of remote grounding though. Like if the story, if I feel like I'm really hooked in, cause just sometimes like a book or a film just hooks certain people in for whatever reason that deals with whatever I already have liked in the past. So like something that is centered around something that is a story that references no characters I know, but is around Jedi training, I probably would be easier to hook me in there than if it were a story about bounty hunters with no reference to something I already know, just because I'm already more predisposed to like certain stories. I will say that like so yeah, I think I would like that. And honestly, like I get like, it's why I don't love the Heir to the Empire trilogy, the in a lot of legends, as like I've soured on a lot of legends now that I'm rereading as an adult, because they're all so winky. Like not
Yeah.
all, but like at least Heir to the Empire trilogy just winks at the original trilogy over and over again. It's like a rehash of the original trilogy, but now there's a character Thrawn in there too. But the new Thrawn books don't like wink nearly as much, and I would say like the final trilogy, or it's two trilogies. So like the Thrawn Ascendancy trilogy has like no winks to like if you read that, like if you read the Thrawn Ascendancy trilogy just out cold, I don't think you would like know who was. The only references are like to things that happen in the other Thrawn trilogy. So like
planets or something, right?
Yeah, or like the
What I
species,
noticed in the
chiss,
High Republic outside of Yoda, and I saw that Blue Pig talked about that. Like the only seeming references in the High Republic that I've read so far are planets, and I think they mentioned like Bacta a little bit, and there's like
Yoda's
little.
there.
Is Yoda like a character in it though?
Yeah,
They
he's
just
like
keep
Grant. He's like a master Jedi.
No, I know. I
But still,
read the
it's not
first
very
book,
winky
but
either.
but they like mention him, but he's like not a character in the books. Like he's not like
Oh, he's in the
he's not like
comics.
what? Oh, is he like actually he like gets things to do as opposed to people
Yeah.
just referencing him?
Mhm.
Okay, all right, whatever.
But
I just
still,
need
the
to,
High Republic.
I need to finish it. Okay.
Yeah, the High Republic is very winky to itself too, which is
Yeah.
like you can't read one High Republic book without committing to reading the entire phase, or like
I
it doesn't
dig
make
it.
sense.
I dig it. I know you don't, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's read some chat
Yeah.
comments. Unless Justin, you want to add something?
Not specifically to anything with the High Republic, but because I haven't started any of that. So anytime you, I need to way catch up on High Republic. No, I've got, and I'm sure we're gonna reach all of them. I've got 4 musical moments that happen in sequence with each other, that happen in sequence to each other, and I hate all of them. And I say hate with love. I say hate with love.
Okay.
I say
let's
hate with
go,
love.
Justin. Let's go. These are
4 musical moments in sequence that I cannot stand, and they all happen at the end. They all happen at the end. First one is. I could not get a thing going.
Yeah.
I liked it musically as a sound hitting my ears. I enjoyed it. In the grand scheme of everything we just saw in 7 episodes.
Oh yeah.
It was a very weird way to end this series. And it wasn't we're not even at the next part. But so we get this medieval recorder.
Who could tell me what that where else that particular what's the word, like approach reminds you of? Yeah, maybe style or like
Mandalorian.
Yeah, well let's talk like let's do some little musical, like let's talk about it musically, like in terms of like genre influence first. Yeah. What kind of Renaissance, right, everybody?
It's very Renaissance feel.
Renaissance. And we get, by the way, the recorder is like a Renaissance instrument. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. It is.
Yeah. Lots of tambourines in the Renaissance too, and you can hear this part, king, 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 tambourine here, jingles. Mm-hmm. It's right in an even 3, by the way, like meters of 3, super common in the
very
Renaissance.
Dancey, very Renaissance dance.
Yeah. And it sets that kind of like, what is he? He's like the regal court, overlord, fiefdom, right? There's like a fiefdom to it, right? Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what they're going for. And I say this, he is and everyone's like giving their respects to him as he walks through, like
because you read the
like
Rancor,
court, right? Because he wrote the Rancor, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now everyone loves him.
So this is very similar to, again, that was my prompt earlier to this, was it reminds me of the what Xanthe?
I can't remember which episode it is, but it's in The Mandalorian, like at the end
The
of.
Ahsoka. It's the Ahsoka episode
Oh, is it
where
the Ahsoka episode?
Ahsoka slays the thief. You know, the what do you call it? The what's her name? She's the magistrate, right? So it's a very similar idea where it's like somebody has saved a town,
Mhm.
and now they're giving, the town is giving their gratitude to this new.
Yeah.
It's actually a pretty similar scenario, actually, to that exact scene in The Mandalorian. It's whatever Ahsoka's episode is, the Jedi, whatever that. What is that? Episode 5 or episode 6 of season 2?
Yeah.
So kind of like I gotta wonder if this was either inspired by Ludwig's score, or if he like actually actively contributed to the Joe Shirley's version here.
I don't know.
Who knows?
Well, what
just-
effect did it have on? Well, actually, Justin, we cut you off. You said you had like 4 things in.
Well, I just wanted to comment
no.
on this one before we got to the next one.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
why
Oh no.
sure.
I was expecting that we were gonna
great,
gonna spend some time with each one. No,
Okay, cool.
absolutely. I want to go in order because it's a very bizarre order.
So
in my mind.
the effect that it had on me was it kind of unnaturally, but it did like lighten up the moment. Like it sounded
Yeah.
like, all right, let's finish this.
Yes.
That's how it sounded.
Yes.
Let's have our celebration with the town.
Yeah, I guess for me it was almost too light.
Yes.
It was like this, almost like this, and now everyone's happy.
And now
the town
this
is
is the last page
destroyed,
of the
but
story.
we're all happily rebuilding
There's the-
together.
and they
Thank
lived
you, mighty
happily ever
daimyo.
after.
We've loved you. Now we love you and respect you. We don't know why you're here or
Yes.
why you care about us, but hey,
Please
thank
grab
you
your
for
belongings
writing.
while you exit the vehicle to your right.
You know,
Hey, yo,
one of the- and then, yeah, right. And then like it reminded me out of a track out of like Zelda or something like that. It had this like, I don't know.
Yeah,
Bring me
yeah,
his
yeah.
agent.
Yeah. Well, I was just gonna say, like, it felt like a very satisfying, calming. You're in that warm place at the end of a conflict, end of a long
Like,
journey that
let's
brought
go
you
to the
there.
pub. Let's just
You know,
have some
it's a
beers.
very calming, comforting feeling that I feel like I'm just imagining an alternate universe where they set all these things up. Okay, again, this harkens back to that beginning of this episode where he's talking to
Major Domo? Oh my
what-
God,
no,
speaking of that.
no, what-
Yeah,
No,
maybe
yeah,
don't.
we gotta talk about that. What's the character, the speed bike leader? What's her name? I don't remember what her
Yeah.
character's name is. Whoever that is.
We got their
Ash.
names, and I
Yeah, we did. So anyway, no.
Scad.
So remember,
they're
she's
like
like,
Scad and
no,
Rash.
yeah, whatever, Scad, okay? And she's sitting there and she's like, no, we're gonna stay. And there's like this moment that just feels so emotional, and you're just like, I didn't see the conflict where you need to stand up for the people of Mos Espa. I don't know who the people
No.
of Mos Espa are.
They were just mods,
I
and
don't-
that they got
I
hired.
don't.
Because
I
they
don't know. All of
wanted
a
to buy
sudden,
water.
it feels like there's conflict we could have seen that needs to be resolved now,
Right.
and that we should care about these people of Mos Espa, and like we need to stick up for the people. These people, this is my city. You know, there's all these little moments that felt like I just wish that I would have met the people earlier.
believed, like,
That
been there at
and
the
so-
point in your life where you subscribed to the cause. Because we
Right.
saw you when you weren't with the cause, and now you're suddenly
with
a
a
big
cause,
advocate.
but I didn't know there was a cause until this episode. Like,
yeah,
what-
even worse.
What was the cause? I didn't realize
Saving
that
the town
I
from the
didn't
pikes because
I
drugs
didn't-
are bad.
because when do we see the
Maybe.
Pikes doing anything negative to the
Yeah.
town besides last episode when they
What are you
blew
talking
up
about? All the kids
first
are dropping
thing?
out of school because of the spice.
But yeah,
Clearly.
exactly, right? Like
Oh.
you know what? No, but I think this is the issue here. I'm sorry, Justin, you brought this thing up and then I just went on a rant. So I think this brings up the issue is like they chose spice as the aggravating force of evil in the town, right? But that means you need to show people affected by drug use, and I don't think they were willing to do that in a Disney Plus show.
No,
Like,
I think
don't
they were
think it-
using the trope because they were expecting the audience to fill in the blanks of what that means.
Yeah, but that's
So
not
annoying.
effective. And what you need to
I
do is
agree.
you actually, if you want it, and that's what I'm saying. Like, but you can't. But the thing is, like, they could have made it better by just like showing people like drugged out on spice, people doing like like people like bad things that happen when drugs like seemingly affect a community, right? But there's no way Disney would have shown that on screen. There's no way. There's no way that they would ever show like people like out in the streets, like out on Spice or whatever, you know. And that's the problem. They showed,
yeah, it's a performative like thing that they just said.
right.
And I don't know. I guess for some audience people, it could have been like, "Oh, this is a good Spice is bad moment for my kids," or like,
But how are
or
we supposed
yeah,
to
I know
know
that I know that drugs are
we don't
bad,
even
or
know what
like,
it is. They never said drug. The kid, I bet kids that don't know about drugs yet are like, what the things that my parents put in our dinner every week is bad. Like, what's Spice? Like, what is Spice, mom and dad? You know, I would have. Yeah. Anyway, sorry, Justin. I just think
No.
going back to why you're what you're saying. This music would have been more fun and effective if we saw that whole journey. We would have been talking right now in an alternate universe, being like, wasn't that kind of like a fun little medieval little thing? It made us feel
yeah,
kind of
Yeah,
like goofy. And wasn't that kind of
exactly.
fun because we get
and
to
like
see,
thank
and they were
goodness, like we all survived. Like what a big
right.
like thing that was. Like,
Right.
gosh, what
But we
a good
didn't see the
action, like
journey.
climax
So
and
in
whatever.
fact, we're just kind of like, oh, that's kind of just a weird thing, you know?
Like, okay, I guess we're
So
just ending it here.
I have to say that
Yeah.
God bless Joe Shirley, because that's actually a great moment for him that's actually a good thing for him to have done in this moment, because but he, like, the material he was given, like,
Yeah.
didn't really, I can't blame Joe Shirley for that
Oh no,
moment.
none of yeah, I
Yeah.
don't think any of our conversations are like a critique of the composer, because
No.
it's all a group effort, and the
Oh yeah,
composer has to score what they've
Yeah.
what they
got.
wanted.
So
Yeah. Okay. But number 2,
I
Justin,
think it
I'm
was.
sorry. What's
I think it
number
was. I guess for me, it was just a weird stylistic choice of
Yeah.
all of a sudden this medieval thing after so much like Western.
yeah, well, this show is tropes on
Latin,
tropes on tropes on tropes on
Latin
tropes. So
American kind of a thing going on. Okay, number 2, which comes right after this, is that as we
oh my god.
as we all are gathering to meet our new friends and have our little yes, it's over, haha, yeah, melon, he gets a melon, oh, it's all good, I don't, all that thing. The
So do you think that was
Mandalorian
a comment on Chewbacca not getting a medal? Like, why does the Wookiee get a melon but we don't? But instead
Oh my
Chewbacca
God.
never got a medal, but
Oh.
everybody else got a medal.
I don't know.
Anyway.
After all this, the Mandalorian theme plays at the end
my
of
God,
Book of
I know.
Boba Fett.
Yep.
As we're looking at Boba Fett and Boba
So
Fett's
glad you brought this up.
crew, the Mandalorian theme plays, and that just to me once again solidifies that this was just the Mandalorian season 3 detour. The last 2 episodes we just saw were Mandalorian episodes that we just had to quickly throw into this series to get people to like it real quick, and which is my conspiracy
And now people
theory.
will watch it because if they're Mandalorian fans, they'll need to catch up.
And the last thing we see, which was my dream from episode 5, is to see Grogu in his little chainmail and then seeing him in the little pod above Din, which, okay, I'll accept
Was it
that
as
fan service.
was it as satisfying as you hoped?
No, of course not. I still was like, oh, yay, but like something that should have happened in Mandalorian season 3, we should have waited for it. But the fact that, again, we just ended Boba Fett with all the music, all the themes that you could have picked for the ending, whoever picked this, whoever made this decision, I want to ask why the Mandalorian theme for the end of the Boba Fett show.
Yeah.
And it wasn't technically the last music that we hear, but the last music.
Yeah, and they cut to Grogu, like, and him in the ship, and it's like that's the last thing we see besides the post-credit scene. Is like it seems like it's like the end of Mando's journey and not Boba Fett.
Exactly, and it's another one of those. Guess what's coming next, guys? Guess what?
They put 2 of those in there.
Yeah.
I just feel like we shouldn't even be having these discussions if they would have just like build the show differently, like just make it not called the Book of Boba Fett. Like, I don't know, just like that way we could just relax on this whole thing. We could just, I don't know, we could. I can't. I don't know.
That's what it is. That has what a lot of it has to do with, is that you penned it as Book of Boba Fett. You brought up a bunch of stuff, and then. Yep, and then all Boba Fett is just Space Seinfeld. Exactly, it was about nothing.
Hey, yeah, well, Brick something just said this fruit stuff in the show felt very Godfather. I love it.
Yeah, Yeah.
That's the what is it? Is it the oranges that he's picking on the fruit stand when he gets gunned down in The Godfather?
Which could have been a cool reference had this been a Godfather-like show, but we've already gone there.
Robert Rodriguez should have just made like an homage to everything parody show, like, because that's what he's doing. Is like he is showing venerable, I don't know, good facility of knowledge of classic film, and by giving us all of these homages, but like we get it. You know film.
Yeah.
Let's do Star Wars now.
New film. Let's make new film.
Justin,
Yeah.
I
I mean,
want to continue because I know where you're
the
going with this.
Yeah, I don't mind the trope if it's done well. You know, like Clone Wars does a lot of the things like that. The Zillow Beast, and we have all these other things. You know, like
Right, but the fruit thing sticks out. Like it stuck out as like, okay, I guess we're just having this moment where like, who even is Chrysanthemum in this show? Like, it's so,
Who are these children?
so
Why are they
weird
giving them
that,
food?
like, now we're just chilling eating fruit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Such a
nobody
fun
ever
world.
asked who is Chrysanthemum.
Who is Chrysanthemum? Why is Chrysanthemum? How is Chrysanthemum?
How is Chrysanthemum?
How is Chrysanthemum?
How is Chrysanthemum right now?
Well, after a nice long soak in the bacta tank, his foot is now in the right position. If you ever notice him dragging his foot as he
Chrysanthemum?
around the corner? Yeah, like you're not walking, my friend. I don't get that. Okay, and then the part that I can't, and I'm already trying not to laugh. And
People in the chat have already been saying it. And
we've already started saying
we've been
it.
waiting.
After 7 episodes of establishing a theme out of nowhere, we get Fett, Boba Fett, Boba Boba Bo, Boba Boba Bo,
And we got the 2 prep notes too.
Yeah.
Yep.
Guys, just go watch my stream. It might as well have been my stream because I called it. Go watch our stream last week.
It's true.
And
James flat out accidentally predicted this.
I predicted this by making a
We
joke.
were joking like they're gonna
We
do
were
it.
joking.
We made the joke last week in last week's stream that basically anytime, like no matter what the intro scene is, when they bring that,
It's those 2 notes.
Those 2 notes, right? It's a D, right? Yeah. And it's just like Boba Fett, right?
Yeah, but all you need is those 2 notes.
No, it's yeah, and it just, to me, it was almost like, here's my crazy conspiracy theory, is that this was the original theme. This was its original take, was with these lyrics. Because if I was the composer and I was trying to think of myself, what should I write for the Boba Fett theme? If I was in my creative process, I'd be sitting there going, Boba, Boba, Boba Fett, Boba Fett, Boba, Boba, Boba Fett, Boba, Boba.
Love it.
And that was my first take, and I sent it off, and then I found out maybe that I wasn't actually composing the music for this series. And this is all we had. And then we said, well, we can't really do this, guys. And Robert our director's in the back's like, yes, no, let's do it. Let's do it. It's like, no. Let's re-record it real quick.
Re-record it, put some nonsense over it, right?
You know, something else. And then at the very end, they're like,
finale.
And then they slipped it in at the last second or something like that. It felt like I want to imagine, though, had the first episode come out and this was the version of the theme that we had heard, of them going Boba, 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 and then have that change to the next episode for the rest of the season, like they just got rid of it after the first one, I'd been like, okay, smart choice. But this was like a very weird backtrack. I'm sorry to the composers and the creators of this version.
I mean, it wasn't like actually part of the show, so like I don't really mind. Like,
No,
it didn't really take away from the show. It's, if anything, it's just like a funny thing to talk about. But it's like, also I was like, I cringed though.
No, I disagree. It was part of the show because we've established at the end of every Mandalorian episode and at the end of every Boba Fett episode, not only are we going to get the theme in its entirety, we're going to see all the art, we're going to see all the things. It's now part of the experience of watching the show. And after everything we just witnessed in episode 7, whether you liked it, laughed at it, hated it, any of it, Fett, Boba Fett, Boba Fett. It threw me out in not a good way.
Yeah,
it made me laugh.
Again, you don't remember from Menacing, where it was like din 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 Jaren, din 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 Jaren. Don't forget about
Mandalorian.
Grogu, because we
It's
put
the
him in every
Mandalorian.
show. Anyway, so you know what it
That's
reminded me
how
of?
that's how they composed. That's how the Mandalorian theme was composed as well. We
Because
just
we
didn't
put
get to hear that
Grogu in
version.
every show. We
Yeah.
got to make sure that Grogu's in every show because he sells all the stuffed animals. Anyway, it reminded me, I don't know if anyone remembers that SNL skit with Bill Murray back in like the 70s or 80s or whatever it was. And he's doing the lounge singer skit, and he's like, Star Wars!
Yes.
All the Star Wars! La da da Star Wars! Like he's like
That's the
singing.
first.
How
that's
do you
what I-
remember that?
That's
What
what
did you-
that's what I thought too. I was like, if this is as if we found out that there were lyrics to the Star Wars theme, and it went Star Wars.
You gotta watch that. If you haven't seen that, go watch Bill Murray's Star Wars SNL bit. It's so funny. He's
That
like,
sounds like the Miko album or whatever. The disco
Wilco?
Star Wars. How do you say it?
Wilco?
No. Miko. Miko? Star Wars, right? Anyone know what I'm talking?
No,
Mecca?
no. I know that Wilco has an album called Star Wars.
Oh, I don't
but-
understand
but-
what all this. Did I miss
Yeah,
something
yeah.
in the stream about the coup? Was there a coup?
Well,
Well, I was unaware. I was aware that
James said it
unaware.
was because James says it was his stream.
It was my stream.
It's-
Oh,
So
wow,
just
I do
like
not pick
Mando
up
on
onions,
Book
so.
of Boba Fett, I took over the show.
Oh, Carrie Fisher singing, almost on par with Carrie Fisher singing the Star Wars theme. Total aside.
or my favorite, the Star Wars Cantina song, not the one that we know, but the other famous one, the one that goes, her name was Leia, she was a princess, at the Star Wars Cantina. Remember that one?
I do know that one. Where he walks, we are furry little Ewoks. Where he walks,
Wait, where?
we are very cute.
I don't know. Send me these references later. I don't really.
Well, I know. I'm just making up an Ewok song right now.
Oh, okay.
It's Darth Vader. Here he is. Here he is.
Well, the one that
scene
might
as
like
he
us now.
walks
Do it.
down the ramp.
the one that I always the one that I would kept saying last season on Last Jedi was Kylo Ren's theme. Sounds like I am a villain.
That's a good.
He's like trying to convince himself.
Well, what do you mean I might like SNL? What do I talk about SNL a lot? When do
You
I
brought
talk
it
about
up a few
SNL?
times.
All right, so what?
Okay.
I grew up.
Our
I grew up on
response-
SNL.
Well, see the fact that you referenced SNL from the 70s and 80s, which I mean, you must have watched compilations of that or something, or maybe your parents like introduced you to it or something. Okay, I choose to believe that
Yeah,
it's
like
a
Star
diegetic
Wars.
Guys,
song by.
we're all watching we're all on a,
Like Star
on a
Wars.
podcast about a movie that came out in 1977.
Yeah,
so,
but
I mean,
that's
like,
that's a little
me.
bit different than SNL from the 70s.
not
It is SNL. Is SNL like our old episodes of SNL like watched that much?
different.
Ah,
Yes,
they're
yeah,
classic. No one.
They're classic.
Okay.
They're classic.
Okay, fine.
Those are the only episodes of SNL.
Yeah.
Okay. I choose to believe that it's a diegetic song by the Mosespa Community Choir. Yeah, they're showing their
That's
appreciation
what
for
they
him
are-
now. That makes sense.
That's
Boba
that's
Fett,
the
Boba
Ballad
It's
of
the
Boba.
daimyo. Yeah.
We have the Book of Boba. This is the Ballad of Boba. Boba.
What was
Boba.
see what was their song for the Huts though?
It was like whatever that like
Jabba Hutt.
whatever that like
Jabba,
atonal thing.
Jabba,
The
Jabba.
tuba thing.
Hot, hot.
Um,
It's
so
the twins.
yes, Justin has awesome synth goodness. That's actually Shelly back there.
And Shelly.
Yep. Justin and I have done we've done a performance that you can find somewhere on YouTube with Shelly, the synths. Me, I had my violin there. We both had a bunch of we both had a lot of pianos,
All sorts of
synths.
things around those.
We had a lot of electronics and a piano and a violin involved, and we had this hour-long improv on Carol of the Bells with lots of Star Wars and Disney references thrown in.
Yeah,
It was a lot
actually.
of fun. We live streamed it. It was right before COVID. So
Yep.
anyway, that was a good time.
That was a
So
good one.
okay, the reason Resistance. Oh, what are we talking about? The reason Resistance really sucks is because they didn't reference Matt, the radar
Oh, they
technician, when they had a
did.
great
They
opportunity.
did. They did.
Alternative lyrics to Boba's theme. It's Freetown. Okay, one more thing. There
Freetown.
was Grogu's theme was in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
But like all things Grogu in this episode, the theme to me did not carry much weight. I just feel like none of the music in this episode had enough space to really consider it fully. And I felt that way about Marshall's theme too, which I like Marshall's theme, the Marshall's theme, Cobb Vanth's theme. But when it's just like squeezed in there, like a quick shot, like a quick little musical cameo, it kind of just, I don't know, it's a little bit of a filler to me. What else? Anything else? Oh, the title card was changed back to from the one that we liked last episode. It changed back to the normal one.
No, it was still a little different, wasn't it?
It did go up. It went dee 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 dee, but it was not on the like mandolin or whatever.
Yeah, and it felt a little bit more like patty, and
yeah.
the this is me being nitpicky, but the hey, which has been a hey or a hut, not fet until the credits.
Yeah.
That was mixed differently. That was down. That was way down in the mix. For this title card. Which I didn't understand, but it worked, I guess. Okay. So, but speaking about titles, or actually the opposite of titles being credits, this was the fourth thing that bugged me, and I didn't hate this, but it confused me and bugged me, and I liked James's description of it when we were all watching it. The Danny Elfman ending version of Boba's theme. If anyone is familiar with the movie Beetlejuice, or the music of Danny Elfman, the ending credits to Beetlejuice is this very creepy, weird sounding violin solo thing with the rest of the orchestra. And it's very Danny Elfman. And Danny Elfman likes to write a lot of music that uses this like boom, 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 boom. You know, he used to be in a lot of ska bands, and he used to be in a ska band back in the day, and he was into a lot of that stuff. And you can kind of hear that in his early work. But it was a very weird ending. Again, like we get a change. We go from medieval recorder theme to Mando theme to Boba 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 to this weird like, but it was Boba's theme. It was Bumble Boba or Bumbling Boba. I keep calling it Bumble Fett. The Bumble Fett theme. The bum 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 bum. You know, this like, and it's over, guys. Get out. Exit music, like exit the theater. That's it. It was very bizarre. It's just a very bizarre ending. Like it didn't. None of this felt like a finale. It felt like a finale because a lot happened. Like big finale.
It felt
things,
like a finale because all of the signs were there. Like AI made it, and AI put all the finale goalposts there.
Well, I read somewhere, or we were watching something. I think that stream that after the premiere of the episode, someone said that the episode felt like an AI generated episode.
Yeah.
That we just spit all the characters of Star Wars into this machine, and it just kind of came up with this episode. And you're like, okay.
Yeah.
I want. Who's the group that does the reenactments of AI written
Blue Bantha
Star Wars episode? They should just read this episode straight from the script. Get the real script and just have them read it as if an AI generated it and see what happens. I would love to see that.
That's really
Blue Bantha
funny.
Milk.
Blue Bantha Milk. Yep.
If you watch this show, this series, please do that for us or for me.
For Justin.
So I forgot who it was. But somebody on our chat last week wanted us to speculate about Kenobi music. And by the way, there's a new poster out for Kenobi. It looks great. Looks great, but it also looks exactly what you'd think a Kenobi poster would which in some ways is great, you know. But it wasn't particularly surprising. Yeah, the less the better for sure. And there's a little bit of like a Mike Kelly landscape that he's on, which is kind of interesting. There's this like one desert piece by Mike Kelly that looks just like the landscape that
Didn't Mike Kelly go to our school?
He taught it at CalArts. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Anyway.
Okay, so predictions for Obi-Wan show?
Music.
Oh, that was cutting
for
room floor.
Obi-Wan show, right?
Yeah.
I didn't mean to bring this up like I had specific ideas, but I just wanted to make sure we covered.
Yeah, definitely.
It looks like you're pulling up your like list.
No, I wanted to look at the Kenobi poster again.
Oh yeah, to get the vibes, to soak in the vibes.
Yeah, I'm curious if
well, if anyone in chat has any ideas, let us know.
Any predictions or hopes or predictions?
Well, maybe what about sound?
What we're thinking,
okay, so like,
what we're thinking, sound and music wise, going into the show. What we think might happen, what we hope will happen.
We know Hayden Christensen is in the show, right? So how do we think they're gonna handle the Darth Vader voice / Christensen voice? Like, what do you think that's gonna be like?
I'm curious if James Earl Jones.
Yeah, I mean,
is gonna voice that. Are we gonna
AI? I doubt it.
Are we gonna AI generate Darth Vader's voice?
Right.
I doubt that too. For some reason, I feel like they would get an impersonator. Or not like an
I don't know.
This really doubt that they wouldn't use James Earl Jones anymore. Like they used him for Rebels and they used him for Rogue One and.
Oh yeah,
and especially if we just demonstrated the technology of AI generated speech in a show about Star Wars, so we can keep continuity of voices.
Yeah, but we don't
sound,
need to see his face at the same time as he's talking,
which makes it easier. That's what I'm saying.
Do you think he'll have the helmet off,
which makes it easier to use a voice actor? Like I think they would have used a voice actor if they didn't have to match it to the deep fake image.
Yeah, I disagree with that because a lot of voice actors like profession is matching what they're seeing on screen, not just animation, but just overdubs in general, redubs in movies in general. You go back in live action and the actor sits there in a sound recording booth, watches themselves and goes, Bob, they say the lines over and over and over and over again until they get the right inflection that they want.
Sam Witwer in Solo with Maul. Right. So, that's not Ray Park's voice. That's Sam Witwer's voice overdubbing over a live action Maul. Right. So Ray Park is saying the lines, but it's overdubbed with Sam Witwer's voice. Right.
Well, but in the case of the deep fake, I would guess that they had to do the voice before the deep fake.
Oh, definitely. And then they probably got the lines and then matched up.
That's not how deepfake works, though. Like deepfake is deepfake, meaning that they put it onto a performance, right? And they match. Like deepfake isn't CGI, it's deepfake.
Right. So if anything, the performer would have had to match the AI voice first, right?
Yeah.
And then the deepfake goes on top of that.
Or they made that. Yeah, we don't know.
I think it could very easily go either way.
I am so out of my depth with what we're speculating on right now. I'm like imagining things I know you might as well ask me to be like, yo, how do they make those rockets at NASA? Like,
well, but yeah, I'm just saying the fact that we don't have to see, we do not have to see Darth Vader's face. If Darth Vader or Hayden Christensen or whoever appeared in this with the Darth Vader face kind of a helmet on, that's very, very easy. I don't think
we would, though, because his voice comes from the helmet.
Right. I'm just saying that would be very easy to then AI generate Earl James's voice. Earl James Jimmy John's voice. James Earl Jones. Forgive me, James Earl Jones' voice, a lot easier because now we don't have to match it. We don't.
Art font seems pretty like that. Seems AI voice first, then actor syncs to it, then AI face. Yeah,
that's what I think. Or I'm with you.
That's interesting.
Why? Yeah. Well, that's the only. I would be surprised if it were anything else because that just seems like a very logical order of events for me.
Yeah.
Okay. I dig it.
I still think it would be very easy to,
Like I said, I
to
don't
do
know.
either
We're not
way.
talking about anything I know
Yeah.
about.
But
So
think about it. The actor
I,
has to
I
match.
am. I
yeah,
am.
but
What would
to
the
me,
actor be saying if they didn't have the voice?
well,
If they
I
didn't
guess
have
The
the
lines.
voice?
I guess it's interesting to me that they I feel like when you're getting AI to like say a line, like I can't imagine that the most natural sounding line is going to come directly from AI. I feel like you
And
want to
that's what we
use
got. Yeah, that's why we
and,
got. That's why we
okay,
got what we got.
yeah, I agree. Okay. Anyway, okay, score though for Kenobi. Like someone who says in the
Okay, we
chat,
have a couple. Cutting Room Floor says, "I'd like to hear a more minimalistic score for Kenobi."
I
I
would
would like
too.
you.
I doubt it though.
I would like you. Can you clarify? Can you, because people mean different things when they say that. So if you could follow up with what you mean, or like some other references of what you personally mean by minimalistic.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you mean in instrumentation?
Minimalistic. Yeah, just
Do you
it can mean
mean
so many
like
things.
literally like
The
minimalism, like
capital
Steve Reich
M, the
and
minimalist movement, or do you mean
and,
like,
and
yeah,
yeah, we just get like
in
like
C?
uh,
Deet, 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 deet. Yeah.
Kenobi scored by Philip Glass. I'd take that. I'd be okay with that.
it's just they announced that Philip Glass is scoring the book.
Kevin Kiner already did a Philip Glass ripoff.
Yeah, you know.
And people love it, to be fair. Okay.
Yeah.
James is whipping out the classics.
It's Nagoya Marimbas by Steve Reich, y'all. Anyway, so yeah, that would be kind of interesting.
Yeah,
if it was like super sparse, right?
Yeah,
I feel like it won't be though, because they've already announced that he's like going off planet.
Yeah, I'm with Brick something here. It's probably going to sound more like a William-esque score. I think they're gonna try and make it a little bit more grand and orchestrated for this character and this, whatever arc they're about to give us, whatever that might be. I feel
Dicey.
I feel like they're gonna try and do that.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I feel like Mandalorian and Boba Fett had this
try.
like very weird balance between orchestral and then minimalistically orchestrated, not the style, but like just like minimal orchestration and then kind of jumping between the two. I feel like my
the common
prediction
thing
would
now
be
is to be like a synthesized score with orchestral elements to enhance it.
Yeah, right, exactly. So I'm curious if they would just kind of go more the orchestral route with this.
Yeah,
that
but
would be
orchestral can mean so many things. I know
You're
you know
right.
that.
So
I'm
I
just
mean,
saying.
so what I mean specifically by orchestral then is using an orchestra and using that orchestra format, using strings, French horns, Western orchestra kind of thing, and give it that 70s, 80s American blockbuster Western music's neo-romantic sound.
So by that you mean like the 40s era.
Yeah, and a lot of other, because the orchestra comes back a few times within the film industry, right?
Well, it came back with John Williams.
Right, exactly, and that was the 70s.
But it wasn't like used. But I have a question, Justin. So this show used an orchestra. Does this count as what you were as what you mean by using an orchestral, blah blah blah? Is this or is this not? Because it is an orchestra.
It is an orchestra. Perhaps a full orchestra in various aspects. I think there were orchestral moments in the score. That's what I meant. Like there was a curious balance between larger orchestral sounding moments and then these smaller ensembles kind of playing. Like the moment with like the guitar, like in the Tuscan, where the little kid is leading Boba and kind of thing. We get this kind of guitar and trumpet little quartet almost thing happening.
Yeah, that's a good distinction because I agree that they're different. I agree that they're different things. Like even using an orchestra is not the same thing as it. It is more of a personnel question of like using people. It doesn't mean writing for a full orchestra because here they are using an orchestra, but they, like Justin said, it's more paired off in terms of like it's like mix and match various sections and smaller groups, and the orchestra is
Yeah.
small. But in like
Well, I'll
in
tell
like
you,
romantic classical music,
percussive choices are not symphonic percussion choices throughout
right?
this
It's
whole show.
not written in
That's
a.
another thing.
It's
There's
not
like
yeah.
there's synth bass, there's everything. I remember when Xanthe was looking at a cymbal cue from I think Last Jedi, and was like, "Is this a reverse cymbal?" I was like, "There's no freaking way that John Williams used a reverse cymbal. It was just choked cymbal, right?" However, this show would be much more apt to. Hey, we never talked about Cad Bane's little.
Oh my God! Wait.
sound that he had.
Let's talk about that afterward, because that was quite a thing. But
That's the kind of thing. Anyway,
I do want to. Oh,
yeah.
continue.
No, I think I would agree with Justin. I think it would be good to see that, like that big symphonic sounding classic orchestration. However, at the same time, somebody made a good point here. Brick something. I wonder if they've got the budget to make something sound like that. Kenobi feels like very much an answer to fans, as opposed to something that they were like, that is like something they were a story that they were hoping to tell or they were planning to tell. Like Mandalorian seems like much more something that they like, I've got this idea, let's tell the story. Kenobi feels like that was something, because it feels like something that they read the room.
But James, so was Boba Fett. It was for the fans.
No, I'm not saying it's for the fans. I'm saying like people were actively on the internet clamoring for a Kenobi show, or like led by Ewan McGregor. Like that. This is like specifically an answer to fans, as opposed to something that they think fans will want. Does that make sense? What I'm saying make sense? Like people on the internet when Disney bought Star Wars and they were announcing these spin-offs, like people on the internet were like, "Get Ewan in there and play Kenobi and do this thing," right? And even the Kenobi now, because they made that Kenobi novel like years ago, right? There was like a story that was told, and
Yeah,
like,
it was not. It was Legends, though. It was Legends.
Yeah, now it's Legends, right?
Yeah.
But my point is, like, Kenobi seems like it is a show that that was introduced as a concept because fans were actively talking about the internet,
And
so
thus,
so I'm curious at how much they've devoted to the show, like budget wise. I'm wondering if they've spent a huge amount of their big budget towards this show, or whether that type of money is going towards their bigger storytelling initiatives like Ahsoka and Mando and this show, etc. I mean, in some ways,
I
Boba
feel.
Fett
Look,
suffered in
I'm
ways.
cynical. I'm not cynical. I feel like I'm a realist, but I think music budget is going to be as slow as they can.
Yeah.
While still making it passable.
They spend it on the movies. That's where they spend it, right? They spend it on the movies.
And I think fans don't all like what fans say they like and want. Look, what I'm about to say is going to come out very bad. So just be aware of that.
Yeah.
As fans, we're not part of their art making process. And so when we say that we want things or like things, it's kind of unreliable. Like we don't really know if we want, and one thing I'm talking about is composers. Okay. A lot of people love like Ludwig or like Kevin Kiner or like any of the other composers that we've had so far, which is fine and great and good. People, but assuming that people that we like will translate or will be, what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say fans will be like, whatever it is, like, I just love Ludwig. I just love Kevin Kiner. Like, let's do that like that without knowing that there's like a different set of maybe you can't just like translate one thing that you like into something that will be best served for something else. And I know that sounds really like gatekeepery, but I mean it even for myself. Like I will even say that like I want certain things or don't want certain things, but sometimes then I do get that and I'm like, oh, but I didn't mean it like that. And so there still is no like, there is no way to like do this right, basically. But I mean, I hear so many people, I mean, I hear a lot of fans also like, just get Zimmer to do it, like get Hans Zimmer to do one or like whatever. And
nope.
I'm glad fans aren't voting on all the decisions, put it that way.
Yep.
Yeah.
But
What I would love in general going forward, if you ask me like what I would want from any future Star Wars show, I would love as
Tatooine
many
Rhapsody.
Star Wars shows scored by people that are not white dudes going forward. You know, not to say that there's not plenty of places where white dudes should continue to be able to score shows, but I would just love more freaking voices in our music in our Star Wars. You know, that's all I want to see. Is just like we definitely have a lack of representation problem going on in our music of our Star Wars shows for sure. And like I said, that's not a dig on the composers that we have. I love their work. I've enjoyed their work, but it's about time that we open the door for different types of people to be able to
Unfortunately,
score these shows.
sometimes that means that they'll have to take more of a risk and maybe spend more time training someone who has not already had a ton of opportunities because they're not already entrenched in the field. Whatever. I'm not projecting.
Sure.
It's fine.
No, but you were like, that's 100% right, Xanthe. But on the other end of that spectrum, there's actually like lots of people that are not white dudes that are completely 100% ready to do everything that these industry quote unquote standard people can do, and they're just not getting the same opportunities. Like so like yes,
it's
and
both.
is what I'm saying.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's both.
But and on top of that too, I just want to say that I would love to just see more like non-Western instruments used in like interesting ways. I would love to see things more like Akakiri, like from Visions, where we've got like really like geeky, knowledgeable tabla being used like in a score for us, like an actual Star Wars show, like in a meaningful way. That's like,
I would like that by an tabla player.
Yeah,
or, like someone who knows the instrument, not someone who's throwing it in because it's a fun flavor to add in. So I just want to point out that when we're talking about orchestras, like there is, as an instrument, like the violin is an instrument, the tabla is an instrument, there's all these individual instruments. But in like, I don't know, Western romantic classical music, when the orchestra is an instrument, like the orchestra itself means something, and it doesn't just mean hiring an orchestra and then breaking them into sections. Composing for the orchestra as an instrument means like not just breaking, like you're taking the whole orchestra as one. Like, like all of us grew up playing in orchestras, right? So it's not like some piece, I mean, with exception, mostly you stay the whole rehearsal because you're in the orchestra. Like there might be some pieces where you're playing less or whatever, but like you're still part of the orchestra. You're not, you're part of the orchestra, even if you're tacit for 3 movements and then you come in, you're part of the orchestra. It's not like, you know what I mean? Right. And so that connotes like a specific sound beyond just personnel. That means like the numbers can be give or take a few, but still the proportions still would be something like 10, 12 first violins, 10, 12 second violins, like 10 violas, like 8 cellos, like 4 basses, like 3 flutes, whatever, 2 trumpets, 3 trombones, like a few, like several percussion players, like playing different different percussion. Like you're going to have like bassoon, you're going to have like oboe, clarinet, you're going to have people doubling on stuff. Like orchestra is a big instrument that comprises many different colors that all the different instruments bring. So the orchestra as an instrument itself is so hard to write for. And there's so much variety in the orchestra. So when people are like, oh, an orchestral is like sort of like that orchestral stuff is sort of like boring. Like that's often like, it's often because that music has not been written or orchestrated in a way that actually shows how much variety there is. Like in instrument, just take any of our individual instruments. You can make so many different colors. The range of an orchestra from the lowest bass to the highest, like piccolo, you cover such a big range. You cover so like, honestly, writing for a full symphony, writing for a full orchestra is really damn beautiful. Like it's really big and it can
look at all these drums that you don't see on a typical orchestral stage. Okay. You see in like almost every freaking piece, this thing. Okay.
Yeah. So like even in the themes that we love, like even when Mandalorian theme is the orchestral version or whatever, none of those are, so far nothing really that we've heard in newer in post John Williams Star Wars, even things that have used orchestra have not been written in a way that uses the full orchestra. Like it's sort of like playing things like you'll hear a lot of strings and then you'll hear like a lot of some really kind of tame sounds that are like the same ones that you might get in sample libraries, not like a big variety. So I don't know, like writing for an orchestra is like, I want it if it's actually going to be written for an orchestra, because otherwise like so many of those attempts fall really flat for me. And I'd almost rather someone who's like really, really good at their synths do that. Like, you know, like Justin and I loved the Toby episode of like it's fine to not use an orchestra if you know how to use the full expressive range of the instruments that you're using. And I think that's the main problem I have is when things are used and in just a really generic way, which is how orchestras or orchestra sounds tend to be used now. And so it doesn't really it's not really a good representation of what an orchestra can do and what it can sound like. If they're willing to spend the budget on someone who actually like is trained that way, because a lot of composers aren't actually trained that way, which is fine. And if they get they could hire an orchestrators to do this. Like, I don't know, just writing for an orchestra is very hard and can be really rewarding. And it also takes a lot of money to hire all those people, because if you're writing for a full orchestra and you're not breaking the orchestra up into sections, which you're going to try to cull the personnel so that you only have to maybe have the strings on one day or whatever, you're going to have to pay more money for that. And it's just all over. It's like a bigger endeavor to do. So I don't know, maybe we'll get it, maybe not.
Maybe not. I mean, I would even appreciate, again, kind of like what James was saying with that episode out of Visions, not specifically a tabla, but like I would love it if I would find it even more interesting than just using an orchestra if the entire Kenobi show was scored with tabla or acoustic guitar. Yeah, just the whole show. Yeah, but so well done from a performer who knows the instrument
and knows how to use the full expressive range of the instrument.
Food on the whole show.
That would be
I totally agree. Amazing. Yep. More is not always better. More variety is not always better, and more variety is not always more interesting. It's like you have to milk your tools to their expressive extent. That's why that Akakiri sound score goes through such a journey. And you know, something like someone said solo piano, like, you know, the piano itself has such a big emotional range.
Can you play the Twinkle real quick?
Oh, dee 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 dee. That's what Orquance is talking about. So
you have your piano ready to go? Can you play it?
Yeah.
So this is what we just do: is make Xanthe play stuff.
Or I'll play it on the notes.
Xanthe is like a Star Wars themed computer that just has all
jukebox.
Can you play it with like? Can you play it with like pedal and like a bass note or something? Wouldn't that be nice? Like it's just like solo piano. Do 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 do.
You know, Arc put that in the chat, right?
Yeah.
G sharp.
Oh, right. What is it? C.
Yep.
C?
C sharp. Sorry.
So James and I used to just text each other. Oh no! See, you're killing it now, James. James, you're killing it.
We need it with like.
This is when Kenobi's making some big up.
No, see, now I don't want it. James, stop. No, don't do the roving pedal point. Don't do it. Don't do the pedal points. Stop.
It's so good.
No, that's how the Kenobi trailer is going to be. It's just going to be like the four chords underneath the Obi-Wan twinkle. It's going to ruin the Obi-Wan twinkle. This is why I don't watch trailers. James, I'm muting him.
Sorry.
But with more drums, it's gonna be pedals and drums.
Oh wait, keep going.
Obi-Wan Kenobi, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Obi-Wan Kenobi.
No.
Obi-Wan
What we're gonna get? No,
Kenobi.
even better. It's gonna be all this epicness, and we're gonna cut to the trailer or the title, Obi-Wan. It's gonna be a lone piano. Dun, dun, da-da-dum. And that's it. The lone piano.
Okay. Cutting Room Floor says,
Okay.
I kind of like that sparse ambient Brian Eno kind of thing for the desert stuff. That sounds cool. Let's say they do a minimalist score. Would you want quiet piano only versions of Williams worked in? Force theme, Vader's theme, huh? Probably not. but if it's done in a certain, I mean, I can't say in advance whether I would like it or not. I might. I think music is another thing where sometimes the Easter eggs are just like unbearable when they're done, especially when they're done in like a new cool way, but using the old themes, like that comes off as like really trying too hard for me. Yeah. Like if they were to do all that original stuff with like the trap beats, the streams will be very interesting. Let's just say that.
All right.
Okay. Agreed. They're likely to keep the music budget as low as possible. Yes, it's a special limited series, and yes, you and Hayden are back, but I still can't imagine them spending for the music.
Thundercat should
musician and Star Wars fan of color here. Appreciate that, James. Exotic fun flavor, ew. Yep.
Yeah,
I want to see a Star Wars show with bad stock music from 20 years ago. Honestly, I think. Never mind, I won't say that.
That could be interesting.
There's a lot of that I've already heard.
You mean like some of it?
Grogu training montage.
I'm excited for you to do Rogue One on your main show because I'm curious at how you feel about that. That score feels like what we're kind of describing of like what the Kenobi show could be like, right?
Possibly. I do have thoughts on Rogue One, but we'll get there.
Yeah. That's why I'm saying I'd like to hear it.
Yeah, we'll get there. So aside from the money needed for the musicians and recording, this is why Williams' score is a long shot. It'd require paying for one to spend lots of time to write well after the show is edited. That's also true. And that's also very true because TV production schedules are obviously so different. Ooh, I wish I knew what the ooh was in response to. Maybe Brick something liked our little rendition.
The twinkle.
Would said guitar or oud also do moments of Williams music?
Does he have a theme? Does he have a theme in the prequels?
Who?
Obi-Wan.
Like a separate theme? I don't think so.
Like he never gets his own theme in the prequels? Yeah, I can't think of it. So I guess maybe like, him like Han Solo.
Oh my gosh, get his epic version. Well, yeah. We don't need to do that. That'll already be done.
Well, him like Han Solo he's hypothetically gonna get his own theme. So I'm curious of what that thing's gonna sound like.
Han Solo did get his theme in the Solo movie.
That's what I'm saying. Him like Han Solo in the Solo movie.
Oh, gotcha.
Like Han Solo finally got his own theme in the Solo movie.
Oh yeah.
Kenobi will finally get his own theme in this.
That would be cool.
In some ways,
maybe John Williams will write it.
And like we said, same thing with like Luke and Mando. Like Luke, I know that the Star Wars theme originally was Luke's theme, but it became not that thing. It became not his theme specifically. But then now in Mandalorian season 2, he was given that new like ba-bum, ba-bum. It's kind of Shostakovich-y a little bit. But you know the theme I'm talking about, right? And so yeah, Kenobi will get his own theme.
That'd be cool. And Brick something. Good news. Solo is my next season. I've already started booking. Oh man. Yeah, it's already underway. It's actually going to start. Solo season. It's actually going to start in the next couple weeks.
Oh, cool.
Even though A New Hope season is not done, I'm going to be ending one at the same time as starting another. So there will be like 2 episodes per week for like a month.
I just rewatched Solo. So
I have not rewatched it in 2 years, maybe, but I did finish. I did just finish the book, the novelization.
I really like it. I like that movie.
Really, I'll have to have you as guests for that season for that one too. I mean, if James wants to. Otherwise, I'll just do Justin.
We'll always be part of this. Are you kidding me?
You're invited for every season. Do we know who's actually scoring Kenobi? No, I don't think so.
It's been announced.
Yeah, I don't see it. They always announce that stuff like super late. So
Yeah, and then change it. Change it.
Yeah, the change it is.
And then it's there.
I mean, let me just go ahead and say like kind of what I said on the last thing. I honestly just looked up who's scoring Kenobi, right, on the internet, and I see people on like sites like Reddit and stuff, and people are speculating who might be scoring it. And look at the list of everyone picks. What do they all look like, and what is their gender? Like, it's just this is kind of what I'm getting to. It's just like there's a serious problem with this in terms of in Hollywood.
Yes.
Like people don't even think of who could score movies other than all the white dudes they know. You know, it's like they don't even know what their options are in the public consciousness of like non-white composers. Anyway, sorry, I don't want to go too far down that lane, but
and you don't want to get me started. Just I can't start because then I will
Yeah.
just end up.
It's just like when everyone starts to name who could score, it's like just look at the types of people you're naming. Not to say that these people haven't.
I will say it's
great
not
work.
just fans' fault because that's who they're given to.
I'm not
Yeah.
blaming the fans.
I know.
I'm blaming the situation.
It's a whole
right?
system. It's a whole complex. It's a whole damn thing.
Yeah. So I'm just pointing it out there that like, you know what I would love? Somebody that I don't even know. You know?
Yeah.
That's so
I hope it's a name I don't know. That is
I hope it's.
I genuinely do.
Yeah. So
Anyway.
hey y'all, I gotta go.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I was like, there's something just too. Well, that was a good note to end on. Yeah, we'll final last thing. If no one has signed up for the Chicken in the Pot minutes for solo, I'm available.
Oh
Good to know.
yeah,
that's my favorite part, and that's probably what I'm going to pick. That's probably what I'm going to do.
I will wrestle you for that actually for our fonts. I will go. I love that song. That's my favorite thing in Star Wars ever.
The thing with these 5-minute chunks is sometimes it splits in the middle of something. So sometimes, like, most scenes get split into two.
I'm kidding. I'm not going to thumb wrestle anybody, I promise.
Well, anyway, Chicken in the Pot is probably what I'm going to pick to do for the main theme cover. Okay, well, we'll be back for our next, Band Batch live stream in May when Kenobi.
Sorry, I'm singing Chicken in the Pot.
When Kenobi premieres. So thank you for, thanks for hanging out with us to talk about Book of Boba Fett. Looks like you're going to have a duel, James. So you better get your gaffy stick ready or something. Let's not do that. Don't kill her. So
no, you might see us on the main show here.
Yeah,
right?
you might see them on the main show soon.
We got to get into New Hope somehow.
Yep.
Worm our way into New Hope.
Yep.
Xanthe,
Yes.
Thank you so much for a great season.
Thank you all. Okay.
Thank you, fans, everybody, for tuning in. We're going to be back even sooner. And if you want us to do reaction shows, all you have to do is
we're not doing reactions. No.
Continuously tweet at Xanthe. Okay.
No, I don't do reactions. I don't have a reaction. I just look like this.
Wouldn't that be funny to watch?
No, it wouldn't be funny.
That'd be great.
It would not be entertaining.
It would be James and I just going crazy.
People
and
expect
Xanthe
entertainment for reactions, and no.
I
promise it's not as
would be what's fun about it.
Like, I promise it's not as interesting as it sounds like it would be. Trust me, I know from my personal life, it is not interesting to people. So let's not do that. Okay. I thought Justin
do we need a little thing that says Xanthe, James, and Justin will return in
I'm gonna put this.
Kenobi.
Thanks, everyone. Okay.
Play it out.
Yes. Bye.